And good morning. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Anything happen? Anything at all? Seems like it was
College World Series, you said?
That's right, the final. It's Texas A&M and Tennessee. All the T schools. Temple, I think, just missed it.
SEC's killing it.
Like, Tulsa and Tulane are playing in the consolation game, right? And Towson, so close. So close.
They were close, yeah.
I didn't have a good season, actually.
I think
everything went south when my son stole that baseball. I think it might have all gone off the rails at that point.
All right, well, at least we know where to blame.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, we got a lot to do, obviously, on a program today. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, our buddy Eric Arditti from Barstool and Exit 52. We'll get his thoughts on, a lot. Fortunately, as good of the news as the Orioles win was, obviously the bad news was not particularly unexpected. You were just kind of like praying that it wasn't going to be the case, as Kyle Bradish is already had Tommy John surgery. So then there were two. Hopefully Cole Irvin continues to be a guy that you can count on in that top group as he goes to the mound again today. But we'll chat with Will Carroll, Mr. Injury expert himself, the man behind the Under the Knife newsletter. We will talk about the Orioles pitching woes and Danny Coulomb news. Not great either. Not great. Not quite as bad, but not great. That's a long time to go without the guy that had been, I don't know, arguably your most reliable pitcher out of the bullpen. Yuck. Also this morning, we're going to meet a pair of former Terps that are headed to the Olympics. Brooke and Emma DeBerdine from just over the state line in Millersville. Brooke and Emma DeBerdine both played field hockey at the University of Maryland for Missy Maharg and are among 4 former Terps that made the U.S. field hockey team that's headed to Paris to participate in the Olympics. So we will chat with Brooke and Emma DeBerdine this morning as well. So a lot to do on the program today. We begin. A lot of candidates last night. Ryan O'Hearn off to a great start to the game. Anthony Santander between the read to come around and score on that Cedric Mullins single in the 10th inning, which in Friday night's game, when Anthony Santander was on second, they had second and first, and Jorge Mateo was up. They were down by 1. I looked at my father and I said, God, if it was anyone other than Santander on second base, you'd bunt here. And then they went ahead and bunted anyway, and Anthony Santander was quite easily out at third base. He's just not the guy that you want to have in those spots. The fact that he scored somehow, it is a miracle. And then obviously he made the diving catch in the bottom of the 10th. Santander very much in the conversation. Ramon Arias.
Yeah, big hit.
A couple. What are you talking about? A big hit. He had a home run and then another big hit. Ramon Arias had a big game and, is gone well out of his way. Right again, the guy that at the death of his value on the roster has stepped up. Ramon Arias in the conversation. Adley Rutschman, best throw of his career. I know that there has been some issue with Adley Rutschman's pop time this season, and my God. I mean, you could not make a better throw. Perfect. Literally perfect. Lots of candidates.
The catcher for the Yankees?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we don't do that, but I get it. It helped. And the guy that took advantage of that was our man of the match. Cedric Mullins, for the second time this season, man of the match. And, is it like someone did ask me last night, is that in part just because of the value of what it might mean that Cedric Mullins is a helpful baseball player again? Maybe. I mean, it really is all about the fact that, like, the 10th inning was kind of all on him, particularly after squandering that opportunity to move the runner over. The Orioles are going to be in a spot where they were going to need a hit, plain and simple. They had to get a base hit in order to score a run, even one run, just to hold in that inning. And not only did Cedric do that, and I get it, it wasn't like the hardest hit ball that we've ever seen, but that's a base hit's a base hit's a base hit. Not only did he do that, but then he had the wisdom to take second on the throw home. And then, of course, he stole third base, and that allowed him to come home on the awful throw from Trevino. What is that guy's deal, by the way?
I don't know how they can
put him out there. Yeah. I hear you.
The Red Sox stole nine bases.
Yes, I'm aware. I'm quite aware. Yeah, I also get the papers. Whatever, man. It was a 2-hit, 2 stolen base night for Cedric Mullins. Cedric Mullins, second time this season, man of the match. So much to discuss, obviously, and it sucks, as I told you yesterday, there is nothing I hate more than the exhaustive bullshit. And I don't even really know what the word is, because somebody would say it's unwritten. This is so far beyond unwritten rules. This is jackassery. I mean, this is the type of stuff that for a little while, and yes, it was exacerbated by how bad the Orioles were, made me really detach myself from baseball on the whole in my adult life. It's so exhaustive. It's so pathetic. It's so embarrassing. Like, we as humans should be embarrassed by this type of stuff. And to say, hey, it's all Yankees fans, dude, I was embarrassed by it. Even when Manny Machado might have been in the right to charge the mound against the Royals years ago, it was still embarrassing to me. Play baseball. My God, it's just so pathetic. And I am so appreciative of Gunnar Henderson for those reasons. And yes, there's something delicious about the fact that that run ended up being really significant in the Orioles winning the game, no doubt. There is something to be said for that being very pleasant. Like, I get it. But all of it, man, it's just so exhaustive. It was part of why I so appreciated Buck Showalter. And, like, part of it, yes, is the fact that the Orioles won. But a lot of it was, we're just not going to be a part of that. And Buck would talk about, like, where does it end? Now what? Like, did the Orioles feel like they got to go tell Cole Irvin, now you got to go plunk? Like, where does it end? And I appreciated that for Buck, it was always, it ends with us. We don't do it. That's it. We just go play baseball and try to win. And in a way, you thank the baseball gods for making sure that on a night where the Orioles took the high road, they were rewarded for it. Any team that participates in this jackassery, this utter bullshittery, deserves to lose. Frankly, they deserve to lose more than that. It is this old, tough guy nonsense. All of these fake, I should say it the right way, fake tough guy. There's nothing actually tough about throwing a baseball at someone. In fact, it's the opposite. It is as cowardly gets. It is pathetic. Everyone who participates in that chicanery is an embarrassment to the sport. But you don't understand. It's Aaron. Yeah, it's a baseball player that plays baseball, that got hit with a baseball, as 1 million baseball players have been hit with baseballs. It sucks that it's your best player. No question about it. It sucks anytime any baseball player gets hurt or even nicked up because they get hit with a baseball. Ask Kirby Puckett about that. Sorry, he's no longer available for comment. It sucks. But it's part of baseball. I mean, I'm dealing with a 9-year-old where I have to talk to him about it. Dude, you got to stand in the box. You can't bail out every time a pitch comes inside. You're going to get hit. It's going to be okay. I was talking about it with, I don't remember if it was Adley's dad or Gunner's dad, one of the dads that I was talking to this weekend. I was talking about it. Like, there's a part of me that wants to go have him stand in the box and be the one to hit him with the pitch so he can understand. But we might call that abuse these days. Tristan Casas was telling a story about his dad trying to get him to play and being arrested.
It was a good bit.
It was funny, I guess, but it was way over the top. It's part of the game. It sucks. It sucks because sometimes guys do get hurt. And that's part of it. I don't really want my 9-year-old, he's 9. I don't actually want him to, like, break his hand. But, like, this is part of baseball. You want to play baseball? This is part of it. It's the same thing with me talking to both of the boys about keeping the ball in front of you. It's that foreign thing to them. Well, then the ball might jump up and hit me in the face. Yes, it might. But the idea is it won't go into the outfield. This is all part of baseball. And as, you know, the data has proven over and over again, yes, it's far more laughable because of how pathetically and embarrassingly wrong the Yankees are about the idea of the Orioles being a team that pitches inside too much. It's hilarious how embarrassingly wrong they are. So, if this were two teams not named the Orioles, if this were the Guardians throwing out the White Sox, I'd be rooting like hell for the White Sox to beat the crap out of them. I want this S out of baseball. Like, it's so embarrassing to me that your manager won't be the one to step up and say, nah, go play baseball. It would have been more fitting had it been a 5-4 game so that everybody could say, that's hilarious. How'd they score that 5th run? Where'd that come from? And the 5th run obviously was still important because without it, you don't get the extra innings. But it just would have been more poignant for this conversation if the 5th run had been the one that made the difference. It's like, if you could feel shame, and that's part of this, is that, like, there's such entitlement that comes out of New York. It's the same crap that we talk about where, like, everyone in basketball tries to, dude, you know, the NBA is just better when the Knicks are good. No, that's literally never been the case in my life. I have never felt even the slightest ounce of the NBA being better because the Knicks are good. Ever. And I've been alive for 40 years. You know where they feel that way? In New York. And in the same way, in Salt Lake City, they think the NBA is better when the Jazz are better. There's just more people in New York. And more of the media is in New York. So we pass along this bullshit. Oh, the NBA is better when the Knicks are... No! No one has ever felt that way outside of New York. Not a human, not a soul in Memphis, Tennessee has ever said, God, I like the NBA, but you know when I really like it? Is if the Knicks are involved. It's this entitled bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm saying shit a lot today. Yes, John Colson? Wait, you were there on both games or just the game on Tuesday? You were there Tuesday. Yeah. Go ahead. You can sit down. It's fine.
Give a review of this stadium.
Well, it's wretched. I mean, it's just the worst place.
This was okay. So it was cool being at an Orioles Yankees game. I want to get
sure.
that out of the way.
It's a big game, right?
And the fans actually were cool.
Yeah.
We had a good time. That is the most wretched baseball environment.
There's just nothing.
You can't even see the ball because I love advertising, right? What do I do for a living?
Yes, that's true. You sell advertising.
I sell out and
yes.
sponsorships
Yes.
and team sponsorships on. I love advertising.
Right.
I'm the only one. You couldn't find the ball sometimes because when there was a fly ball, I was sitting on a third base line, it literally gets lost in all of the advertising messages that are so high in the air.
Right, correct.
It's insanity.
The
stadium sucks.
There's no soul to that place whatsoever.
And you're 100% right about the entitlement.
It's overwhelming.
Riding this packed subway out there and just listening to those god-awful accents talking about the greatness of they weren't taunting us or anything. They were being, but talking about the greatness of the Yankees and the stadium. It's like being in a plastic flying saucer with a bunch of advertising, and there's a baseball game going on.
Yes, correct. All this is for the last 2 days is we have to remind you that we're the Yankees.
And that stadium.
We matter, you don't.
Yeah, and that stadium. Whoa. And that's how it comes across.
It's wretched. That's
how it comes across.
It's the worst place.
So from
Fenway Park's a dump. I just want to be clear, but it has soul.
Fun.
It has soul. Like it is there's something there, but it's a dump. Like we can't get around that.
But this entitlement when he got hit,
yeah,
and the fans, you would have think they held Cal Ripken down on the ground and threw at his head
right.
from.
Right.
I've never seen anything
because
like
a pitch ran inside on him.
He got hit by a pitch.
Yes, it happens all the time.
Well, they tried to kill Gunnar.
Yes, correct.
A couple nights ago.
They tried both nights.
Yeah.
Yeah, both nights. Because that's how, again, this is all about we're the Yankees. We matter. You don't.
You can't throw at us. We can throw at
you. You need to understand who you are. You're not the Yankees. We have Aaron Judge. He's more important. I mean, they've literally gone to the lengths of trying to pretend like Aaron Judge hit more home runs than anybody in the history of baseball. They forced that on us for a season because he was a Yankee. I assure you, if he played for the Kansas City Royals, it would not have been the charade. It would have not have been the nonsense parade that it was, trying to get people to believe that Aaron Judge was the actual single-season home run leader. Nonsense. Utter bullshit.
There you go again.
I can't help it. This is so embarrassing.
It was so silly, and the way you feel like you're in the middle of a Sopranos episode. He gets hit, and
right.
and just like all that crap.
And by the way, I got no beef with like New York as a place.
No, I love New York.
I just was there a couple weeks ago.
I
mean, look, it's not my. I don't ever really want to spend more time in New York when I go there, but I don't mind going there.
Right, it's fun.
And there can be big events can be fun in New York. I went and saw Dave Matthews Band in Central Park once. That was cool.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It was very cool. But my God, the entitlement.
The Yankees entitlement.
The Yankees, but it's a New York entitlement.
I agree.
It's the same reason why we get shoved the New York Giants down our throat in primetime football, despite the fact there's not a human that wants to see them. It's because New Yorkers make the decisions.
The good news is their choices between the Giants and the Jets, so it's like at least there's some justice.
Yeah, but you had a good time.
It was wonderful.
You had a lovely time. Lovely. Who'd you go with your son?
I went with my son and another dad and his kid.
Nice.
A couple other friends.
That sounds like it was fun.
And you know what else the Yankees do?
What's that?
If you're buying tickets, they try and screw you with the tickets. Let's just say that. And it was half the cost to buy the tickets on StubHub, as opposed to get them through my contacts at the Orioles, because the Yankees actively screw the other MLB teams from buying tickets to the games.
Yeah, I've heard some stories.
But that doesn't happen with any other team.
I don't know.
Not like that.
Maybe not, but I've heard that there's been more of that going on recently. Like that.
This is a different level of
apparently, the Phillies did this. I have a buddy that lives in Baltimore County that's a Phillies fan.
Yeah.
And he was trying to buy tickets to a Phillies Nationals game, and because his zip code was
they all do that.
Like he was getting screwed.
But I'm saying they screw the other teams.
Okay.
So it's pretty
different.
crazy.
That's
I just
different.
don't like the
That's
whole
different.
free. I've gone there now for a game. I'm done. I'm fine.
Yeah, I've never felt the need.
Yeah.
Drew and I got kicked
Actually,
out of a game at Yankee Stadium once. That was fun.
I mean, I'll go to a Nats game anytime. I'll go down
that
to
place also
stadium.
has no soul.
But I kind of like it.
Why?
I like that
that's a
I
stadium
like that you
without
can
soul.
see the field from the concourse. I like.
Okay, I mean
I
that
like
part
that,
I'll give
that
you.
people don't go to their seats, in the middle of an inning
Yeah,
and stuff like that. I like
still-
some of that
people.
stuff.
Yeah.
Food's good.
It's a stadium with no soul.
I
Like,
agree
there's
with that.
just
I agree
no
with that.
nothing there.
Okay, well, I'll go to Wrigley.
Thank you.
Okay, man. Sorry,
Good
I
to see
just
you.
had to
No,
barge
no,
in.
no,
That's
I'm-
okay.
I'm
I ruined
I'm
your
just gonna-
show.
No, I'm going to keep saying bullshit today. That's all I'm going to do.
I don't care.
You know, it
That's
was
fine.
BS.
I don't
They
mind
didn't
that.
issue a warning
Just-
after Gunner got
Yeah, I
hit.
mean, that
If
was.
we could refrain from anything that ever has a bucket that somebody might have to throw up in, that would make me happy. That's all I care
no,
about.
I'm not going to be able to do
Yeah.
that. Not
Can we
gonna
do the
be able
shows
to do
outside?
That. Not going to be able to do that. Thank
The
you.
stain on my carpet is still not clean.
What stain?
Well, I'll show you when you're done with the show. It was from
From
that
what, mayo
when you all
or-
put that tarp out there. Was it
Well,
mayo?
we put a tarp. Yeah,
So
we
I guess I have
We
a
had to do a mayo
mayonnaise
bath.
stain.
We
on
had
my,
to do a mayo
which,
bath.
by the way, I love mayo. So if
Well,
I'd
that's
known
very
that-
weird. You're a
I'm gonna bring
weirdo.
a hot
Now
dog
you're a
in and eat it
weirdo.
with mayo
Well,
just to show
somebody's going to be doing that coming up in a couple weeks. All right, thank you, John
Bye.
Colson. Appreciate you. I just hate all of it so much. And we haven't even talked about that stuff that I wanted to talk about from last night's game. Like you guys being mad at Brandon Hyde for, again, making the right decision. I got the data.
Doing what they've done the last 5 years. And
What the organization wants him to do. You just, for whatever reason, we live in a world where people want to hate the coaches or the managers or whatever for funsies. And look, my friend, my partner, Rita is in this group, and she and I fought about it last night on Twitter. Today's show brought to you by County Sports Zone all summer long. All of the latest coaching changes, news, previews for the start of high school football season. Find it all at countysports.zone. It's proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. All right, let's talk about all of it. Our buddy Eric Arditti, you know him from Barstool, you know him from Exit 52, and he is back with us this morning here on GCR. What's going on, pal? How are you?
We're good. We're good. How is everything there?
I've said bullshit too much on the show today. It's not been family friendly. I'm just so, dude. Like if this wasn't the Orioles and the Yankees, if this was the Marlins and the Mets, I would feel the exact same. Like I am so effing. I don't know how much you and I have talked about this. At one point when the Orioles were bad and it was just this theatrical crap all the time in baseball, I legitimately fell out of love with baseball as an adult for a little bit. I am so sick of the man baby, pathetic, we are in our feelings, all of it. And I have so much appreciation, not just for Gunner, but it was part of what made me fall in love with Buck when he arrived. It was the moment he stepped up and said, you will never get me to care about this other BS. I only care about winning baseball games. And I am, first of all, thank you to the baseball gods for making sure nothing went really wrong last night and everything went the way it should have gone. And I have so great appreciation for the fact that all Gunnar Henderson cares about is being good at baseball and winning.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. But it kind of Buck laid the the blueprint a couple years ago, and there's that famous him and Girardi where he's kind of wagging his finger at him, saying, not here, we're not doing this. And Hyde, I mean, you could see it last night, and it seemed like Yes was really trying to egg it on, because after the hit by pitch, they would show the dugout, in the Orioles dugout, and those guys are like, okay, cool, whatever. Right. Ryan O'Hearn kind of popped his head up after the Gunner one. I thought that was kind of funny. He looked like a meerkat, popping his head up, seeing do I have to rough someone up? But again, it didn't come to that. Gunner's like, all right, whatever, put me on. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to steal a base. Then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to add an insurance run that probably would have that cost you guys, winning the game in the ninth inning, because Giancarlo hits that home run, in the bottom of the inning. But yeah, I mean, it's all petty BS, and I'm with you. The grown men being like, we have to handle this, because one of our guys accidentally got hit. We have to. No, you don't. What are you talking about? This isn't a duel. It's not the Western, back in the day. Who cares? It was obviously an unintentional pitch by Suarez. I think Keegan Aikens was even less intentional. Right. He barely grazed Torres's finger, and people are and then the Yankees threw at them twice that night too. You missed Gunner the first time, you missed Santander that time. It should have been over. That should have been it. You had your chances, you tried it, and you missed. So again, nothing but credit and praise to Gunner and the rest of the guys for keeping their cool. Colton kind of let one fly a little bit, but again, they kept their cool, and like you said, the baseball guys rewarded them. They won the game, and that's a big game. Like Hyde said, it's a big game. They came away with it, no injuries, and a win. You can't really ask for much more than that.
The weird part, man, I hate. It sounds like a loser mentality, but when I looked at the pitching matchups for this week, I just kind of came across and said, look, just don't get swept. That's the only thing I care about this week. Just don't get swept. And it gets into the bigger problem. Like the Orioles' bigger problem is we're going to have to deal with the Kyle Bradish thing is real, and we got to deal with it. But, like, I know everybody talked about how big this series was coming into it. The Orioles had nothing to prove this week. Like, the idea that we somehow don't know how good the Orioles are, well, we already have those answers. They already won 3 out of 4 against the Yankees. They just beat the Phillies. Like, there's no debate about whether or not the Orioles are legitimate. They're wildly legitimate. You couldn't get me to get all that worked up about this week just because it's not a playoff preview. There's no world in which the Orioles would be facing the Yankees and the playoff matchups would be Albert Suarez going against Nestor Cortez and Cade Povich going against Garrett Cole. Like, that just wouldn't be happening. So I just never got caught up in the overwhelming significance of this week. And in this bizarro world, I think you've already accomplished the one goal I needed you to accomplish, which was don't get swept and find yourself 4.5 games back in the AL East.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. And, I think I kind of got swept up in it just because of the whole gauntlet month, hell month, whatever you want to call it, 2 days off in 45 days or whatever. And back to back with the Phillies and all that. And I'm with you, too, because I was telling someone, again, after they lost Tuesday night, and they were like, the season is done. We're the series is toast. We're done here. And I said, okay, well, then don't watch. Like, I don't know what to tell you. If you think, nothing that the Orioles are going to do this series, same thing with the Phillies. Nothing that they were going to do against the Phillies or the Yankees was going to change my tone on them. And it shouldn't. Like, again, we know that they're a very good team. The Yankees are a good team. The Phillies are a good team. Like, if the Orioles had swept the Phillies, it wasn't like, oh, Philly, now what do? You just got swept by the Orioles. Same thing with the Yankees. If the Yankees would have swept the Orioles, it's not like this. Now you got to look yourself in the mirror. No, it could have been a tough 3 games. It wasn't. But all these teams are very, very good. And again, the big, like you said, the Bradish thing, that's the big picture going forward. We're not going to go into a matchup in October where you have to count on, and I love these guys, but Povich, Suarez, and Cole Irvin,
right.
Like that's not how it's going to line up. It's just not what's going to happen.
Well,
so I was with you. I was like, don't get swept. And I thought Cole was the one that they could get, and it ended up happening.
So the interesting part now becomes like Cole Irvin's going to have to go under the microscope a little bit. At the moment, he's their number 3 starter, and for the most part this season, he's been great. His last start, obviously, that was not the case. He was battered, but this is a big moment because even in a world where we say, hey, we know they're going to have to go out and get another starter, we all love Dean Kramer, but the numbers do not back up the idea that Dean Kramer is anything more than a number 4 starter. Like, that's just we love him. We love his mentality. We love the bulldog nature, but we can't deny the reality of what the numbers say. The Orioles have a number 1 and a number 2, and that's what they've got. And then they really need another guy, but they might need a 4th starter for the playoffs. Like, this is Cole Irvin and or Dean Kramer is going to have to step up the rest of the way. Like, they're going to need one of those 2 guys, both of them probably until they require a starter. But even after they acquire a starter, they're going to need one of those 2 guys to be solid going into the postseason.
Yeah, this is where we kind of see where guys, what they're made up of and what they can handle. And you kind of just have to dump it all out there. You put your onions on the table and you kind of find out who's who. And I thought, and again, I'm not advocating for him to start a playoff game, but Cade Povich last night, that game could have come unraveled so easily. And the fact that he was in Yankee Stadium on a mound with people booing and screaming and yelling at him, and he's walking every single person. And then you look up and you go, oh, wow, this guy almost got through 5 and he gave up 1 hit. Like he buckled down. And that's those are the starts that we need to see from these guys. And we saw it from Irvin a lot earlier. I'm trying to remember the one game, I forget who it was, but it was one of Irvin's, the early games when he was, 7 shutout or 1 hit or 2 hits or something like that. Those are the kind of games that we're going to need to see from these guys. And again, we've seen them from Dean. We've seen them from all the guys. It has to be more consistent now. Now is not, you can't really have those. I just didn't have it today,
right,
because we're getting down to the like, well, we need to find someone who can have it. Just again, based off, the injuries the last 3 weeks. I mean, it's crazy the amount of UCL. We said that doctor, that surgeon in Dallas is probably looking at boats right now just because of the Orioles and what the business they've given him the last couple weeks.
It's going to be called the Lady Baltimore, to your point. Eric Arditti is with us. Just for the record, it was after his first 3 starts of the season, which were brutal. Irvin went 3 straight 6+ shutout inning games against the Royals, Athletics, and Reds. After that, and I mean, like, they're going to need. And by the way, I don't think your point about Povich is. I do think there's a world in which Povich can be a part of this conversation. The walks are just so concerning right now. Like, it really is all or nothing. It seems like with Cade Povich, if he's not walking anybody, he can do what he did against the Braves last week, but. Hey, the walks have been overwhelming in the other 2 starts, so he's got to get that figured out. He's got to throw strikes. I mean, he's just got to trust his stuff, and he's going to get more opportunities. That's for sure. All right, so I ended up getting into it. I immediately, like everybody else last night, when Brandon Hyde goes and pinch hits Austin Hayes for Ryan O'Hearn in the 9th inning, my first thought is the exact same as everyone else's first thought. Really? Ryan O'Hearn at that point probably was going to be man of the match. Like, really? Two out base hits, RBI hits in this game, and he's got to sit down. And like is always the case, when I know that it's going to lead to a flood of Twitter activity, I say to myself, well, I better educate myself about the topic and make sure I'm not just talking out of my butthole. And so I go and I look into the numbers, and I say, I knew it was bad for Ryan O'Hearn against lefties. I knew there's a reason why you don't play Ryan O'Hearn against lefties, but maybe I didn't realize how bad it was for Ryan O'Hearn against lefties. Of course, a career 168 hitter against lefties. 1 for 11 this year. Officially 185 career at-bats, 60 of them strikeouts. And obviously in that spot, you don't want a strikeout. But as was later pointed out to me, because this year he actually hasn't struck out in his 11 at-bats against lefties. It's much worse than that. In those at-bats against lefties, he's been almost doing nothing but hitting ground balls, which would be even worse than striking out in that spot because it would end the inning and not even allow a next hitter to the plate. Austin Hayes, we all know, hits lefties. There's no way around it. He also is an incredible career pinch hitter. He's a .320 career pinch hitter who was 5 for 10 coming into last night as a pinch hitter this season. So I can't do it. I can't line up behind the P. I understand when someone generically says, "Hey, you can't be a slave to analytics." Right, but when it's overwhelming, you can't ignore it either. And the same first thought that I had in that moment, Brandon Hyde's got all the data. The organization's giving him all the data. They want him to use the data. Like, that's very clear. These are Yale-educated people at the top of this organization that have decided that data matters. And if you don't like that, then that's a different conversation. But this, like, the angst towards Brandon Hyde because he makes data-driven decisions is almost bizarre to me.
It's very bizarre. I'll never understand it. Like, again, you have your people who don't like him, they don't like Harbaugh, whatever, that's fine. But again, it's every little nitpick decision where they're like, well, here, typical Hyde, you can't trade for this guy because, he'll bat him for 3 times, then he'll bench him and blah, blah, blah. And it's just, I don't understand the like fascination with hating your manager. Like, I don't know what he's done to get people not to like him or whatever.
All he's done is turn around a franchise.
Weird. Like, tried to fight Robbie Ray on the mound. Like, what is not to like about that guy? I mean, that would get me to like him over anything else. But I don't get it. And the second I saw that move too, I'm like, I get it. Why would you hit Ryan O'Hearn against a lefty? Because that's the thing. If he grounds into a double play, you know what Twitter is saying? You have Austin Hayes sitting right there on the bench. How can you not pinch hit him? He rakes when he's a pinch hitter. He rakes against lefties. Ryan O'Hearn is bad. Why would you not pinch hit him? It's the exact same thing that would have happened. It's just like what they do with any bullpen move. It's crazy. I fully understood the move. It was an awful at bat by Hayes. It was a very rare bad at bat by him against a lefty and pinch hitting role and all that. But, it ended up not mattering. But, I mean, I remember being at the game, the Chris Davis walk-off against the White Sox in 2014. I think Delman Young was 3 for 4 or 4 for 4 that game. I'll have to go back and look it up.
Okay.
But Buck pinch hit for him in the 9th inning. And I'm sitting there going, what are you doing?
Right.
Delman Young is a professional hitter who's 4 for 4 right now. You're going to take him out of the game, and then all Davis did was hit the home run. And it's like, you know what? Maybe we don't think we know as much as we do. Like you said, these people are Yale-educated baseball people who do this every single day, 24 hours a day. That's all they do is look at these numbers. Of course it was the right move to make. It didn't work out, but it was the right move to make. So I knew people would be mad, and I was just like, I can't find myself to get worked up about this. So
it really is weird. It's just weird, and I don't get it. I mean, like the one earlier in the game where my buddy Paul Valley's freaking out because how do you not let Cade Povich get a win? Like, my God, are we really still talking about wins? Like, are we still pretending? I haven't even looked. I guess Craig Kimbrell was the winning pitcher last night, right? Like, come on, man.
Just like Aiken.
Yeah.
Aiken was the winning pitcher against the Braves last week after giving up the home run.
You cannot pretend like a win matters. You can't. It is also objectively hilarious that baseball. We've known for how has it been 20 years since baseball people started saying, hey, a win stat is bullshit. Let's stop pretending like it matters in any sort of way. Mm-hmm. And yet no one in baseball stepped up and said, why wouldn't you go back last night and say, hey, if we're going to have to do this win thing, perhaps we say to the official scorekeeper, you need to go back and look and figure out who's actually deserving of being credited with a pitching win. Go back and look at the game and say, what was the pitcher that made the biggest impact on the game? Because it's objectively hilarious that we have kept this statistic alive in baseball for this long when that last night is definitive proof of how nonsense the statistic is.
I think at one point last year, Mike Baumann was 10-1. 10-1. And it's like, yeah, what are we doing with these win saves? That doesn't – because there are people who are like, well, Baumann is, he's really good. He's 10-1. It's like he can be really good, but him being 10-1 is not that's not the there's the stat. That's what you circle. No. That doesn't – No. What are we doing?
It's an anomaly. It's not an accomplishment. It's
funny. Our buddy John Menadakis last night texted me and he goes, how long has this 5-inning win stat, how long has that been a thing? And he goes, so you have to pitch 5 innings to get a win, but you can throw one pitch and get a loss. And I said, yep. And he goes, make sense. And I was like, I got nothing.
Well, or if you're a reliever, you can throw one pitch and get a win. In fact, I believe you can technically throw 0 pitches and get a win because you could pick somebody off at first base. And that look, when I used to be a real nerd as a kid, and my son's running into, I believe I read enough baseball books to know that I think it's happened where someone has been the winning pitcher in a game without throwing a pitch. That's the statistic is stupid. And yes, somebody, if you're going to have an official scorekeeper, they should have the brains to be able to say at the end of the game, hey, if we've got to do this, if we still have to pretend like this is a statistic, then we go back and we look at everybody last night and we get to determine it's worthy of Cade Povich being credited with the win. Or if you think that Jacob Webb, for example, is more deserving, fine. Go that way. But it sure as F isn't Craig Kimbrell. That's what I know. I know as a fact that in no world should Craig Kimbrell be credited with the win. All right, where are you, because obviously the Bradish thing is real, where are you with what you want them to do as far as acquiring a pitcher?
I want them to get guys. I don't know who it is. I'm getting attracted to Eric Fetty. Is that how you say his name?
I've
Fetty,
talked
right?
about Fetty a lot these last few weeks, man.
Yeah, I picked him up in fantasy a couple weeks ago, so obviously I've been keeping an eye on him. I mean, he's controllable. He seemed to found it. I like him, and I obviously want Crochet too. I'm terrified of his elbow. I know he's had Tommy John, I believe, but he's already flown by his innings. Again, he's controllable though, so maybe you put him in the back end of the bullpen this year, and then next year you can kind of have him at a 3 or 4, something like that. I want no part of Justin Verlander. That is an old man who is hurt, and hurt people stay hurt. He's not getting any healthier. I would love to try and kick the tires on some of the Padres pitchers. I don't know what they're thinking. Michael King, I would love to bring him back and kind of shove that right up, right back in the Yankees' face. I don't know. I mean, there are some guys out there. Luzardo's obviously interesting. He had the elbow thing earlier this year. He plays on a bad Marlins team, so his numbers look bad. But I don't know. There's not that this is who I want circled.
It's part of it is tough because
I don't
also
want to do Jack Flaherty again.
Yeah, I'm out on that. Fetty is the one. The tough part about Crochet, and I think it was Eric Kratz who said it to me first. Like, dude, you're gonna be in an innings problem with Crochet. Like, you're going to. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to win the World Series, first of all, Crochet's been so good and has so much control that you're going to have to pay a premium for Garrett Crochet. And that sounds like, to your point, it might be worth doing that, considering, again, you get that control, and in a post-Corbin Burns world, you might have another ace to go along with what you're hoping Grayson Rodriguez is going to be next season. But is it going to help you win a World Series this year while you have Corbin Burns? And maybe, to your point, like, it could, in that he could be a reliever this year, but like, you're going to have to pay a serious premium. Fetty, I get it, man. Like, we've got a half a season of a sample size of him being really good, and we got a lot of track record of him being not so good. And so it's a lot to go in on, but you're also not committing long term. Like, he's under control for one more year, and you probably don't have to pay nearly as much in order to get Fetty. Fetty's the guy, and part of it is, again, because there's so many teams in contention that it's hard to discuss any of the pitchers on any other National League team at the moment. He's the guy that I keep finding myself, like, almost obsessing about. Like, this is the guy that I think is the one, and I would almost like to see them try to be aggressive now. Like, try to go ahead and say, let's get ahead of this. Let's not allow these 20 other teams to figure out if they're going to be in it at the end of July. Let's try to be aggressive, make a good offer, and pluck him away now, and then let all those teams, have there be lesser teams that can get into the conversation.
I thought that when we got the news about Coulomb going down, I was like, I would try and go out right now and get a bullpen arm.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you see bullpen arms move so much at the deadline, and it's just this team. Everyone trades for a bullpen arm. And it's like, why, like you said, why wait and get into that, like, the bidding war with the Yankees or another team or Cleveland or someone like that? Like, just go out and do it now before it gets all ugly, and then you do have to throw in another prospect or something like that. So I'm with you. Go be ahead of the curve. And I'm sure they have. We saw the Rosenthal report last week, I think, where he's like, the Orioles are looking for starters. But I want them to go out right now and again try and make something happen now, as opposed to waiting till the deadline and then just kind of waiting in line with everyone else. Go do something now and make it happen, and we'll go from there. Talk to Houston, go have Mike talk to Framber and see what's up, see what's his deal. If Kyle Tucker wants to come too, he can come too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. All right, buddy. Are you doing an end of series show today?
Yep. I think I'm solo. I know Spenny. I don't know if you saw the mutton chops on Spenny. He's on like a dude's golf tournament. Go to his Spenny's page and just scroll down.
I'll look.
It's something.
No chance. This is not one of those like kind of dude trips where you wonder if somebody's ended up putting a finger in somebody else's butt, is it?
I wouldn't put that past any of them.
Yeah. I've been on a few of those dude trips in my life. I've been on a few of those. You just never know.
We'll be doing the series recap again. Hopefully it's a good one, and then
aren't there like 5 guys on your show? How could you end up being solo?
There's a lot of moving parts right now. It's a lot of moving parts. Jake is doing something. Banks is renovating a house. Taylor is running stuff for Maryland basketball. So it's a lot.
Jeez. All right.
It's a busy time.
It's at Exit 52, obviously, is where you check that out. At EDD22 is where you find him, and, of course, Barstool as well. Love you, buddy. Always appreciate you. Let's talk again. Oh, I know you're, like, doing events and stuff like that. Is there anything else I can plug for you?
We just the tickets went on sale today, I believe, for the Colton Cowser Meet the Birds at Jimmy's Famous Seafood, everyone's favorite place. So I believe it's $69 and $99. They have a VIP ticket. You meet Colton. I'm hosting a Q&A. You get a signed ball. You get a picture with them. So we've done these events before. They're really cool. We have another one coming up with Gunner where tickets go on sale, I believe, July 5th. That thing, I told John, like, you may have to rent out the the chicken box for that because
Holy
I don't know how
crap.
you're, there's going to be a lot of
Jesus.
people who want to go to that. But yeah, they're always a good time. So you can go on Jimmy's, their website. They have all that. I'll be tweeting it out and stuff like that as well.
Good deal. All right, buddy. Appreciate you. Let's talk soon, all right?
Thanks, boss.
Eric Arditti. Appreciate him doing that with us and allowing me to get, I think, everything off my, I mean, you guys know, first of all, I love Paul. And even though we wildly disagree, I would still tell you, tune into the Bat Around Saturday morning at 10 a.m. I couldn't believe. Like, some people just decide, like, this is who I am. I don't like the manager. I don't like the coordinator. I don't like the coach. I don't like whoever it is. Like, that's just, it's in your blood. You've decided that's who you are. But trying to argue that, like, it was a bad idea for Brandon Hyde to go get Cade Povich in the 5th inning when he had just walked his 5th batter of the game. 5th. By the way, they gave Cade Povich the opportunity because you could argue, as they were talking about on the broadcast, about whether or not he should have come back out for the 5th. But they gave him the chance. And then with 2 outs and nobody on, I mean, it's just the type of stuff that, like, what are you doing? You can't walk that guy. Particularly going into the teeth of the Yankees order. So there's no argument for that being a bad decision. None. Zero. Like, it's the opposite of that. It would have been insane if Brandon Hyde had said, I care so much about this arbitrary, meaningless statistic of a win that I'm going to hope that he can get out of it. When, again, he's thrown 94 pitches in less than 5 innings and has been wild. And you can say, well, he only gave up 1 hit. He put 6 guys on base. Like, you can't pretend that Cade Povich had a good start. You can say what Eric did. Like, hey, given where it was going, given how awful it looked like it was going to be.
I felt like I was still impressed.
I can't go impressed. Credit to him for, you can say certain things. Credit to him for battling. It definitely could have been worse. But you got to move the goalposts in order to do it. Like, you
and I'm
can't,
doing that. Like, I admit I'm doing that. Like, the first 3 starts have not been easy games for him. Like, they've all been tough opponents and tough games.
Sure.
And I feel like overall, I feel like he's shown a lot of.
I think if you say, like, I
about.
have reason to believe that Cade Povich is going to be a good major league pitcher, yeah, I'm with you on that. But you can't objectively say he had a good start in New York last night. He didn't. But that's okay. They won anyway. And they won in part because
He gave them a chance to win.
He gave them a chance to win is fine. It's the, like,
I mean, obviously, you want everyone to go 6 innings, but like,
it's not even about you want them to go 6 innings. It's that you can't walk 5 guys. Like, you can't run away from that. You can't cherry pick which statistic you want to look at and say, well, he only gave up 1 run and he only gave up 1 hit. You can't walk 5 guys. At some point, it becomes more luck that you were able to than skill. There was some good fortune in there. I didn't even really think he got squeezed off. Actually, it's funny because I think the relievers got squeezed more than Povich got squeezed last night. Povich was, I don't even want to say good enough. He wasn't really good enough. He was, credit to him for limiting the damage. And credit to Brandon Hyde for saying, hey, we just got this 3-run lead. Let me see if I can't get another inning out of him because I'm going to have to go to a tired, I'm going to have to go to the bullpen a lot tonight. Maybe I can get a little bit less out of the bullpen. A bullpen that, frankly, is not very good, and that's part of the issue, too, is there's only so much you can do at the deadline. Like, the Orioles aren't acquiring 6 guys.
They might, if they want to. Definitely can.
And unfortunately, someone might still get hurt between now and then, too.
Seems almost likely. Like,
there is no argument for trying to say, like, hey, the win statistic matters. He had a chance to get his first career win. Great.
also had that last week.
Yes. By the way, if it makes you feel better, he wasn't going to end up getting it. If that helps you sleep at night, if Brandon Hyde had left him in and he had gotten the next guy out, he still wouldn't have gotten his first career win. So if that helps, maybe you feel better about it today. In the moment, Brandon Hyde was trying to do what they needed to do in order to win a game. I respect that. And then there was no argument on that one. I actually did think there was some argument, again, initially about the O'Hearn-Hayes thing. Like, I get it. Like, a guy has 2 hits. You just can't fathom sitting that guy. But
also, like,
the numbers don't lie.
I wasn't surprised, yeah. Like, and like the stat, the Orioles are batting .360 as pinch hitters this season. Like,
and Austin Hayes, part of it, 5 for 10. 5 for 10. Because they make these decisions in spots where it makes sense.
869 OPS when they pinch hit this season.
And that doesn't mean that you just
right.
You can't project that and say, well, just pinch hit for everybody, and you're gonna you can't do that.
Well, it's because they pick and choose their spots.
Right, because they go and they look at the numbers and they say, you brought in a lefty. This is how we counter that. I do think the more compelling argument would be this is a reminder of why you need one more right-handed bat, which, again, multiple reports say the Orioles are in the market for one more right-handed bat. I think they could use one more right-handed bat. And we poo-poo the idea of someone like, Kevin Pillar, but they are definitely going to dig around into guys' splits. If they can find someone else's trash that we look at their overall numbers and we say, boy, that's not that great, but then we see that they actually, they hit lefties well, the Orioles might find some value in that. We're talking about like Luis Robert, or the Orioles might be looking at the lower level of the right-handed bats and saying, who's somebody that we could ply away for next to nothing that very uniquely helps us in exactly this spot against lefties? We're not looking for a great hitter. We're looking for another bat that we could put in a spot like this against a lefty. We'll see. All right. Today's show is also brought to you by the Stan the Fan Variety Hour. No show today. Stan and Eric will be back next Thursday. And starting next Monday, they'll be back on schedule for the Stan, Ross, and Luke show every Monday. Stan the Fan, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson. They were on Tuesday this week. They'll be back on Monday of next week. Talking baseball with you live at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. And if you miss it live, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. PressBoxOnline/video. All right, we come back in today. Among other things, we're going to meet a couple of former Terps who are now headed to the Olympics. Brooke and Emma DeBerdine are going to join us. That's on the way. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor, dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and on the cover, Glenn Clark and Stan the Fan Charles sit down for a sports conversation with Maryland Governor Wes Moore, discussing the Orioles and Ravens stadium leases, the future of horse racing in Maryland, and how his own football career at Johns Hopkins shaped him as a leader. This is also our annual travel issue with information about sports tourism opportunities in Maryland for your family to take advantage of throughout the summer. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
Well, look at that right there. I've been trying to tell everybody about this one. You perhaps have already gone out to your neighborhood Royal Farms, hundreds of locations around town. Ooh, it's a thick boy. This one's THICC thick. This new print issue of Press Box, which is now available for free everywhere around town where you find Press Box, including all those Royal Farm stores. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. But, there's nothing like when you like to have something in your hands. For example, when you're sitting on the toilet, you like to have something in your, it's just, this is the problem with when you're reading something on the phone on the toilet. You end up sitting on the toilet entirely too long. Whereas if you just have this in your bathroom, you could start reading it and then put it down. And then the next time you go to the bathroom, you can pick it back up. It's the print issue of Press Box. It's available for free. And yes, that is Maryland Governor Wes Moore on the cover. Stan the Fan and I went down to Annapolis a few weeks back and sat down with the governor to talk about some legitimate or relevant sports topics. We talked about the stadium leases. We talked about the future of horse racing. We talked about NIL as a former college football player himself. We talked about those types of things, and also how his sports career helped shape him as a leader. So encourage you to go get that. It's also our annual travel issue, and so there's a lot of sports tourism opportunities all throughout the state of Maryland that you can learn about more inside this print issue of Press Box. Encourage you to go pick it up today. From let me go through a few of these. From Jeff. Jeff says, to Glenn, appreciate everything you're saying about Brandon Hyde. I will admit I'm someone who has second-guessed many of Brandon Hyde's decisions. I do acknowledge that the data matters. You asked a question on Twitter last night. I did ask a question on Twitter last night, Jeff. You asked a question on Twitter last night about when he is supposed to be overruling the data. And I wonder if anyone that is arguing with you has presented their philosophy, or if they're just, if they're just blindly throwing S at the wall. It's funny that I'm saying S instead of saying, I've been saying bullshit all morning, and then all of a sudden this is the time where I say
bullshit every morning, actually.
Is that what it is? Look, you've been waiting on that one, haven't you? Griffin's been dying to get to that moment. It's been loaded. That one's been in the barrel for 2 years. He's just been trying to come up with any sort of excuse to say that. No, and I did ask that question. It's funny. Our buddy Spencer Schultz, our gambling guy here at PressBox, just click like on that tweet from last night. I followed up my tweet. I said, look, this feels
doxing likes now on Twitter. And
yeah, that's right. We're not supposed to be doing that. No one's allowed to see what it is that you like anymore. I said, so look, Brian Gorin reached out to me on Twitter last night, said, I know Hyde usually pushes the right buttons, but O'Hearn has had so many big hits. He deserved a shot against a lefty. Awesome win, though. And I said, I retweeted it, and I said, this feels like the easiest thing to say, and I felt the same way in the moment. But O'Hearn is a career 168 hitter against lefties, 1 for 11 this year. You can say he didn't need a hit, but he also has literally struck out 60 of 185 career at-bats against lefties. This organization wants the manager to use the data he has available to him. So when is he supposed to overrule that? What do we want the rules to be? And I keep coming back to that. When you say, and look, everyone knows I adore Rita. She means something to me in my life that few other people do. But Rita is someone who has been at Brandon Hyde's throat for the last couple of years. And she was fighting with me. I felt bad last night. This was like Shawn Michaels crying as he was about to end Ric Flair's career. Rita tweeted me last night and said, Hayes has not been good as a pinch hitter. And I was like, oh, no. Rita. Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't feel good about this. It's actually the exact opposite of that. He's been really good as a pinch hitter. But, she said analytics should help but not drive decisions. And what are the circumstances? And to me, the circumstances are when they're more neutral, right? Like if it's a more neutral, if you get a set of numbers, and those numbers last night are, let's just spitball. Let's say Ryan O'Hearn is a career 224 hitter against lefties. And the guy that you'd be pinch hitting him for is a career 270 hitter against lefties. The data still says you should go with the other guy. But maybe then you're taking into consideration some of these other factors. Well, Ryan O'Hearn's had a couple of hits tonight. Or you look into the recent data. And that was one of the things that I said because Paul Valley tried to get back at me last night and say, well, Ryan O'Hearn hasn't struck out against a lefty this season. So I said, okay, in fairness, I don't have the data about what's happened in his at-bats this year against lefties. Because obviously, as I pointed out earlier, a ground ball would actually be more disastrous than a strikeout. But if you've got the data that says in his 11 at-bats against lefties this year, like 9 of those 11 are fly balls, then that's the type of data that might become relevant. Because a fly ball there is extraordinarily helpful. So if he has been driving the ball against lefties, and it just so happens to be that they've been caught, well, now you present that to me, and suddenly, we've got a conversation. That's when Jason Gill on Twitter says, I actually do have the data. 7 of his 10 outs against lefties this year have been ground balls. 2 of them have been shallow fly balls to left field, which obviously means
no one scored.
Yes. He's had 1 fly ball. 1 of his 11 at-bats. And then the other one, ironically, his other his one hit against a lefty this year was an infield single. So considering they're not going to be able to dramatically do their version of a shift in that spot, that's going to take an infield single off the plate, and what would have been an infield single against a bit of a shift would more likely be a double play ball again. So the data in that spot is overwhelming. But I do think there can be times where the data might be a little bit more neutral, and in that spot, perhaps you do default to, okay, O'Hearn's had a couple of hits tonight. And obviously, if there was nobody on base in that spot, O'Hearn's hitting. Because then you're measuring what the likelihood is of the next guy specifically hitting a home run. If you're up by 3, perhaps you're not doing that. I don't know. It's the unique circumstance of you're only up by 1. All you need is a fly ball in order to get that run home. But the guy that you have at the plate, in this circumstance, the data says he's not likely to be the guy hitting that fly ball. So that's not data that I can argue with. That's not, we're being slaves to the analytics. My God, it would be essentially reckless to do the other thing. We would have to come down on somebody. If you presented all that data to me and you made the opposite decision, I'd have no choice but to say, what in the F are you doing? That's where we are. All right. I was trying to build our buddy Josh Charles has been texting me this morning. He's been tuned in.
How's it going, Josh?
Love you, buddy. I asked him if he wanted to call in, but I think he had other things he's got to do. Of course, the star of The Veil on Hulu, among many other things. So let's do this. We actually had to do this a little bit earlier on because of their schedule. They're getting ready for the Olympics. But a couple of former Terps are Paris-bound, Brooke and Emma DeBerdine, and we'll chat with them right now here on GCR. Well, we have been meeting some folks from this area and some former Terps recently who are headed to the Olympics this summer. And I'm really excited about this because our next guests are a pair of sisters who are originally just from over the state line in Pennsylvania in the Lancaster County area. But they are a pair of Terps, and now they are also a pair of Olympians, which is such a cool story. Brooke and Emma DeBerdine are with us now here on GCR. Brooke, Emma, first of all, thank you for taking the time, but more importantly, congratulations. This is so cool.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to start with Brooke. Just take me through this part of it, because being an Olympian is cool for everybody. That means, but doing this with your sister, like, can you possibly put into words how much more meaningful, like, that has made all of your steps over the last few years, but particularly this step to going to the Olympics?
Yes, it's been amazing. Just like, honestly, for our family and our parents, all that they've put into both of us. I think having two elite athletes on the family has been hard. So just shout out to them and all they have done for our career. But when we saw the name on our names on the list, like my name, it's alphabetical order. So my name was right above Emma's. And then, so like when I saw my name, I saw Emma's name. So it was just very cool. We decided to not look at the list together to try to, in case one of us wouldn't make it or neither of us would make it, and just give each other like the time to process. But once we saw both of our names on the list, we gathered the family and FaceTimed my brother in. So it was a really special moment for the whole family and
That's
just
so cool.
everyone that's been involved. So yeah.
Emma, I wonder if at any point you like consider whether you didn't want to like kind of follow in your sister's path. I wonder if like there was ever a moment where you thought like, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should go to a different school, anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, Brooke and I kind of did things very separately for a little bit. Like we did, I went on all of her college visits with her, kind of as the little sister, but got to see like where she was looking, got to see what I liked about those schools as well. And then we both just ended up loving Maryland so much. And then it just worked out really great for our family. I mean, our parents didn't have to travel everywhere all the time because they could go together to our games in college. And it just made it very much a family environment for everyone there. But yeah, I mean, we both had our very like individual hardships, I would say, like going through to get to this point. So I think definitely there's times where it's like, am I doing this? Should I be going to the same place? But I mean, being able to follow Brooke and have her with me through all of this has been very special and has definitely helped me get here in the long run.
Well, let me give the same question I just gave to Brooke, right? Like playing collegiately, that's cool. Like playing in high school, that's cool. Y'all are going to the Olympics together. Like I'm still kind of like, this is just not a story that happens very frequently. Like, Emma, have you had a chance to like process how overwhelming that really is that you get to do this with your sister?
Definitely very excited. I honestly don't think it's sunk in that we're going to the Olympics. I don't think it will until we're there. I have honestly no idea what to expect at this point. But the fact that we get to experience it together and with our entire family there is just so special, and it just makes me even more excited. It's
awesome. Brooke and Emma DeBerdine are with us here on GCR. A couple of former Terps headed to the Olympics. Brooke, let me go back for you. When did it start coming on your radar? You've obviously been a high-level player for a very long time. Like, when was the first time you had a genuine thought about representing the U.S., but specifically, because I get that you do it at younger levels, specifically in an Olympics?
Yeah, I think we had Jill Whitmer. She went to our high school and then also played at Maryland, also went to the Olympics. So kind of watching her grow up was definitely influential for us. Like Lancaster's a very small town, so that someone from a small town can then go to Maryland, which was like a huge achievement for us when we were younger as well. And then from Maryland to the national team to the Olympics. So she was really a role model for us growing up. And then I would say second, I was thinking back like kind of maybe this question, because I've been asked it a couple times. During my visit to Maryland, Missy told me, she looked me in the eyes, my head coach at Maryland, and she said, I'll get you where you want to go to accomplish your dreams. And I think just hearing that from her, and also like knowing that she's gotten other athletes there before, was really cool. And my parents still talk about that comment of like just her belief in me, and also just she had the resources to make me the player I needed to be and wanted to be. So yeah, I think thinking back on that, especially with the Maryland, it's just been amazing to have so many role models go through that program and kind of open up our eyes that high-level athletes come from this program and they're going to teach us the right things. So yeah, I would say that's been something cool to look back on.
Emma, was it similar for you?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if you've heard of Spooky Nook Sports in Lancaster, PA, but the women's national team used to train there when we were in middle school and high school. So we got to watch them. I think the biggest part, they had a send-off party when they were leaving for the Rio Olympics, and we got to go and get all their autographs and just see them off. And that's kind of when I think the dream kind of sprouted. But I didn't know if it was ever going to be attainable at that point. And I just think going through college, I mean, I had similar conversations with Missy, but it's kind of like, if you need to tell me like what you want to do and I'll help you get there. And it's definitely been like back and forth a little bit. And it's just like, am I going to be able to play at this level and get to this level? And I think through college and through the junior teams, I just really felt that it was getting closer to being attainable for me.
Brooke, you brought up Missy first. I mean, my God, right? Like, this is just an absolute rock star in this sport, who has won lots of national championships and conference championships. What is it about, like, I guess let's go the whole thing. One, what was it about her, the program, that made you want to be at Maryland? And how does that experience with her help prepare you for making this jump and being able to make the national team in the Olympics?
I would say Missy's, like, one thing I could word like best would possibly be that she wants me to be the best person I can be on and off the field. I got that vibe from her as soon as I visited. Like, she truly cared about my academics. She truly cared about my social life. She cared about my family being a part of it. So I think just her involvement in my whole life, and not just me on the field, really propelled that on field for me, actually, and like allowed me to see that, like, wow, she really freaking cares about me. Like she does all of her players. So that was huge. And I think also just her passion about the national team in general and just making us the best possible athletes we could be. She was on the national team herself. She had so many athletes go there. And that she's been a huge part in each of our lives that have progressed onto that. And even just like moving from Maryland to the national team, obviously I was nervous, and she was just constantly like checking in on me, and she didn't have to do that anymore. Like, she was not my coach anymore. She had 25 other athletes to worry about and try to get ready for the fall, but she's never going to be out of my life, I would say, which is amazing because she's been such a impactful person in my life and continues to be. So she's the first person, one of the first people we wanted to tell, just because she was such an involvement in our lives. And yeah, I'm very thankful for her.
Emma, does it feel like we could just rename the Olympic team like the United States Terrapins? Like, would that be you think like that would be like that? It's not just the two of you, it's 4 Terps all on one national team roster. Like, how big of a deal is that for you?
Yeah, I really think it just goes to show like what kind of program Missy's built and how much time and effort she puts into each of her players to get them where they want to be. I think, I mean, it's amazing getting to play still with people that you played with in college. It's just an amazing atmosphere that she just still is in contact with every single one of the Terps on the team too. Calling us. I think we have a text string where she's constantly just checking in, hope training's going well, thinking of you guys. And it's just, she cares so much about us and how, like, getting us to where we want to be and supporting us along the way.
That's cool. That is really, really cool. And we all know how special she is. We probably take her for granted, all the success. But that is awesome. All right, so now we got to ask the question. It's been a long time since the U.S. has medaled at the Olympics, right? Like, it's 1984. How do we change that? I know, first of all, it was just getting back to the Olympics. Like, I know that part was important, and you all had to accomplish that. And I guess maybe I should start there first before we talk about the other thing. Brooke, how much confidence did that, like, this was not a given, right, that you all were going to qualify for the Olympics to begin with. Yeah. How important was it going through that, getting there, and how much faith does that give you in your ability to go there and compete with the best teams in the world and try to end that drought and get back on the medal stand?
Yeah, so I think, getting the opportunity to go to the Olympic qualifier was a huge step for us, just looking back on the last 8 years of just what our program has gone through. I've only been a part of it for 2.5 years, but some of our veterans on our team who have like stuck it out and missed out on the last Olympics and continued to just stay on board and help build this program up and tell us and show us like how we can get back there. We owe a lot of credit to them and just their commitment. And the Olympic qualifier was amazing. I think we just had so much belief going in, and it was not something we needed to talk about all the time. But when we got on the field, like, we just did our role and we just did our job. And I think like that is just like we can take pride in that because we can show that if we stay committed to the process, like we can execute. So I had a great time playing at the Olympic qualifier. I think all of us did, and just the celebrations that we had after qualifying and just getting to be there. And again, just look back on like all the kind of steps against us that had happened over the past couple of years and just relocating and new coaches. It was a huge accomplishment, and we're really proud of it, but we're also excited now, like, what's next? And I think that's now with the roster being named and just kind of focusing on how can we get to that quarterfinal match is our goal right now, of how can we get out of pool play and put ourselves in the best position.
Emma, what is it going to take? What will have to be even better when you guys get to Paris in order to get on the stand, in order to medal?
Yeah, I think, as Brooke mentioned, the shared belief. I think we showed it in Pan Am Games, we showed it in the Olympic qualifiers, and I think continuing that onto the Olympic stage, even more locked in and more belief shared between the team, I think that's going to be huge. And I know we're all very aware of what we're capable of. It's just putting that into action, doing our role, and I think we're going to do really well and really be competing. All
right, let's ask the important. Can I assume that you guys are going to be roommates at the Olympics? Like, is that no?
I don't know.
Oh wow. Okay.
When we go on tour, we're just regular teammates, like I am with the other girls. So, probably, unless, we don't get to choose. So if we get put together, we'll deal with it and we'll probably be fine. But if we're not together, we're also probably going to hang out outside of the room as well.
Fair.
We find our sister time if we need it and if we want it. But other than that, when it comes down to it, we're just teammates.
But it almost felt like, with the way that you responded, it almost seemed like you would almost like prefer to not be roommates. Like, we wouldn't mind having.
I think it's like, we've spent I'm 25 years old and we've spent 23 years of our lives together. Yeah. So I think like being with other teammates is always fun. I really think we would have a good time if we were roommates as well. We would probably not have any of like, how do you like to do things? Because we just have known how we like to do things for the past 23 years together.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Emma, do you have somebody on you? So I always ask every Olympian, is there another Olympian that you are really hoping to get a selfie with at some point during your trip? Do you have someone on that list?
There's always Simone Biles. That would be amazing. That would be huge. But any of the U.S. women's soccer players would be very, very cool. I love watching their journey and everything as well.
Brooke, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to say Simone Biles as well. All the gymnasts, I've always been so impressed with. And I think that's probably the sport that I watched the most growing up.
I meant to ask you about this, like just the path to field hockey in general. It feels like in that part, I don't know what it is about that part of Pennsylvania. It just feels like, you mentioned earlier, like there's always producing great field hockey players. Was it always field hockey for both of you? Were there other sports that you played? When did you know it was going to be field hockey?
I played soccer. Soccer was my main sport growing up. And then soccer moved to the fall when I went to middle school, and I had to choose then. I think in 6th grade I tried to do both, and I was like, okay, well, I need to pick one. So I chose field hockey in 7th grade, but then I also played lacrosse through high school to my senior year. So we played a bunch of different sports. Emma, what did you do? You did lacrosse and track, and then soccer going up too.
Yeah. My mom kind of got us out of soccer, I would say. She loved field hockey so much. She had played field hockey growing up as well, and put us in a lot of soccer, and then kind of transitioned us into field hockey, hoping that we'd move that way and that we'd be a little bit ready for a change.
I guess we can say now, in hindsight, that decision worked out. Like, I guess we
Yeah,
can.
definitely.
Thanks, Mom. That one ended up being a good call at this point. All right, what can we give a plug for? Brooke, Emma, social media, where can Maryland fans be giving you all a follow? Brooke, I'll start with you. Twitter, Instagram, and any sponsorship you have, something like that.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. It's just Brooke.DeBerdine. And then on one of my main sponsors is Longstreth Field Hockey. So any equipment you need for field hockey, they're the go-to. And then to follow our team, you can follow USA Field Hockey on Instagram, or our women's national team account is, I think it's, let me look. Emma, do you remember what it is?
It's USA Field Hockey _WNT.
Okay. Yeah, that's our main. That's our main team account, and we'll post like personal stuff there. Just kind of our day to day. So yeah,
awesome.
Follow that.
Emma, what about you? Where can folks be giving you a follow?
Yeah, almost exactly the same as Brooke. Mine's just Emma.DeBerdine, and then my sponsorship is STX.
Awesome.
STX be the best.
And then follow Maryland Field Hockey.
Of course, yes. Absolutely. Yeah, and by the way, and it's probably gonna be a lot of Olympics content over the course of the summer, because there's a lot of Maryland Olympians. Brooke, Emma, so happy for you. This is such a cool story, the two of you doing this together. It's awesome to see. Thank you for spending time with us. After you guys go medal, we want to go catch up with you again later this summer and talk about the experience.
Sounds good.
Yep, that'd be great.
So that's Brooke and Emma DeBerdine. Appreciating them taking the time for us. It was weird. I don't know if you guys noticed that when I asked that question about rooming. They were like, no. And then I thought maybe that they just genuinely didn't want to. And then they were like, well, we just don't know. I said, oh, okay. But, yeah, very cool, and obviously a testament to the program that Missy Maharg, I say has built. It's a standard. I mean, she's won a lot of national championships. So appreciate them taking the time for us this morning as they get ready for a trip to Paris. All right, we continue along on a Thursday edition of the program, afternoon game. Although, why is it a late? What is that, by the way?
I guess because they want it to be, prime-ish, time-ish,
It's not either one.
Well, it's 4.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, there's no other games that started right at 4 today. So.
Oh, is that the case? So they get the baseball world to themselves. Is that the reason why they did it? It's very frustrating because
there's another 3:30 start though.
There's a big soccer match at 3:00 that I would have liked to have watched. It would have been perfect if they had done this at noon and then right into the soccer match, or again, as I pointed out, there's nothing.
Been a soccer match at noon too. There's a big match going on right now.
Maybe for you, not for anybody else.
Both my teams playing. Oh, they drew. I'm trying to think. I mean, result probably would have been best.
Yeah, a draw only if you have both teams. Draw only gets you 2 points.
If Slovenia or Serbia is able to advance, in that third place bracket,
I do get that.
Give me an extra.
That does help. You're right about that.
Somehow,
so a request from John Proctor.
Oh my gosh! And it was a goal in another stoppage time goal. 5 minutes.
Really?
95th minute.
That's pretty wild. So it was 1-1.
Yeah, it was 1-1.
So Proctor made the request this morning that if we finish in a tie at either the top or the bottom, that the tie-breaking procedure be an actual penalty kick shootout between the two parties involved. I love it. I'm all in. It would be a bit of a problem right now at the bottom of the table, for example. John in Little Rock sits at 3 points. If John were to finish in a tie with somebody, that might be tough because, John's not in the state. So I don't know how plausible it is to pull that off.
He just loses.
I don't think that's fair.
Is he allowed to pick? No.
A representative for him to be a part of the penalty kick shootout? Here's what I would say. A tie that involves any 2 people in this state, yes. Live penalty kick shootout. 5 kicks, alternate. You're kicking, you're the goalie. You're kicking, you're the goalie. You're kicking, you're the goalie. All in for that being how we break the tie. If you're not in this state, I don't know. We'll have to work on it. Proctor thinks there's enough points involved in this equation that it probably won't happen.
He's probably, I mean, like right now it's obviously really
Yeah,
tight,
it's
but,
all
like,
bunched up.
We're
like
less than a weekend. So,
yes,
yeah.
correct. So, and the Copa gets underway tonight.
Mm-hmm.
First match in the Copa is tonight. So,
I believe you're involved, I think.
am I? Oh, right, because I have Canada.
Yeah.
I do. I have
So
Canada.
you get your first loss.
Big night. Oh, what are you, anti-Canada? Or
Well,
you
I mean,
have?
they're not going to beat Argentina.
Oh yeah, it's probably not going to. Well, it could be a gentleman's draw.
A gentleman's draw.
I think Canada could come away with a big 1-1 win tonight. I think they're capable of it, of pulling off the 1-1 upset.
Ryan's got Argentina.
Son of a
That's right.
bitch.
That's right. He has Argentina and France.
Well, he needs them because right now he's near the bottom of the table. He only has 4 points, whereas
Denmark plays. They kick in half an hour.
All right.
They play
Well,
England.
Anyway, that's what's going on. I think I'm with Proctor. Anybody involved
In a
tie that's in this state, live penalty kick shootout. We're all about the same age. Who's particularly younger? You. Actually, you know what? That's a huge advantage for you. Although
I'm not a great soccer.
I saw you against Robo Goalie. It did not go well.
Robo Goalie's really good.
Robo Goalie's unbelievable.
Robo Goalie's really good. Okay?
That thing is incredible. Yeah, it didn't go well.
He read a scouting report. Like that was.
Is that what it was?
He knew my tendencies.
He was on top of it, man. It was crazy. I was like, geez, Robo Goalie. Give him a break. I didn't do well against Robo Goalie either.
No,
in fact,
you didn't.
I was so mystified. So at Live Casino and Hotel, I had Robo Goalie out for the World Cup last year. And I let Griffin go first. And then I was like so befuddled. How do you beat this guy? That I'm pretty sure I didn't even put one of them on goal. Like, I ended up putting him to the side netting.
I can't.
Because I was like, you got to put it in, like, the exact spot to have any chance.
My first, I had a good shot, I think. Like, it felt good off the foot.
Right.
And,
yeah, off the foot.
And I was like,
that Robo
number
goal,
90,
man,
and he was just like,
problem.
boom.
That's a problem. Yeah, speaking of Live Casino and Hotel, because we were speaking of Live Casino and Hotel, not only is Sports and Social always the best place to watch all of the big events, including all the big fights, but Live Casino Rewards members have the opportunity to earn discounts on cash and credit purchases at the casino. Join the Live Casino Rewards Club online or in person at Live today. See complete details at livecasinohotel.com. The injury expert himself will go under the knife with our buddy Will Carroll next here on GCR.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and on the cover, Glenn Clark and Stan the Fan Charles sit down for a sports conversation with Maryland Governor Wes Moore, discussing the Orioles and Ravens stadium leases, the future of horse racing in Maryland, and how his own football career at Johns Hopkins shaped him as a leader. This is also our annual travel issue with information about sports tourism opportunities in Maryland for your family to take advantage of throughout the summer. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The days are getting hotter, and so are your Baltimore Orioles. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and you can join me and Ryan Blake on the Bat-Around every Saturday at 10 a.m. as the Orioles march towards another postseason berth. With a Cy Young candidate in the rotation and multiple MVP candidates in the lineup, this might be the most well-equipped Orioles team to end a decades-long World Series drought. From the Midsummer Classic to the trade deadline and beyond, Ryan and I will be with you through the dog days of summer and into those crisp fall nights. So tune into the Bat-Around every Saturday starting at 10 a.m. right here with Pressbox.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Thursday edition of the program. After, of course, the Orioles did hold on in extra innings, 7-6 to beat the Yankees last night. They will look for an improbable series victory later on today. Cole Irvin on the mound against Luis Heel. And, yeah, I said before, and I'm not backing away from it, my singular goal, just don't get swept. If somehow they win this series, my God, like, miraculous. Miraculous. And, of course, the bad news yesterday, Kyle Bradish did end up having Tommy John surgery, which stinks. There's no way around that. Like, there's just not a way to sugarcoat it. You can't. It's awful. I mean, it's awful. You can say, hey, we always thought that this was a possibility and that when we got the news before the season, we assumed. But still, Kyle Bradish got out there and in moments looked like Kyle Bradish. Like, looked like the guy that was a top 5 finisher in Cy Young voting a year ago. But it is what it is, and the Orioles are going to have to figure out life without Kyle Bradish, on top of life without John Means, on top of life without Tyler Wells. Danny Coulombe, they're hoping, could be back in September. It's a long way to go without Danny Coulombe. Let's talk more about all of these injury issues that the Orioles have dealt with, particularly among their pitchers. You read his Substack and newsletter, Under the Knife. You can follow him on Twitter, @InjuryExpert. He is my friend, and it's always a pleasure to welcome back to the program Will Carroll, who is with us here on GCR. Will, you know, it's funny, I say that because I always love talking to you, but given what the topics tend to be when we're calling you anymore, I'm not sure how much I really love talking to you, but I still appreciate you taking the time.
That's the thing. It's good when we haven't talked for a while, but I miss it. I realize I'm the Grim Reaper, but sometimes it's good news too.
Let's get it out of the way. Are the Orioles cursed?
No, not at all. I mean, for God's sakes, if it's a curse, every other team would like to have it.
Yeah.
It's certainly been a long build to this point, but this should be the peak. This is one of the better teams in the league last year. It's one of the best teams in the league this year. There's more talent coming. There's the ability to make deals if Mike Elias chooses to do so. You've got a great new owner, it appears. He's certainly got the money to do things that maybe the Angeles family didn't. So a great stadium, a great city.
Yeah,
what's not to love there?
But I don't love that everybody's elbows are falling off. That's what I don't
Well, but that's not the Orioles. That's baseball.
Right.
Certainly it's a problem. You don't want to have somebody heading for Tommy John surgery. You certainly didn't want the Means situation, which is really unusual. Having a second Tommy John surgery inside of that 5-year period, it just doesn't happen very much. But it's a reminder that Tommy John surgery isn't perfect, just really, really close. Bradish will be back. Means we assume will be back. All these young guys will be back. So a lot of talent. The question is, is there enough right now? Do they need to go get a pitcher? I think the answer is yes. Yeah. But what's the cost and who's that guy? I'll be curious to see how it goes.
Let's cover a couple of things, Will. With Tommy John, with him doing it yesterday, right? With him doing it on June 19th, is there any world in which Kyle Bradish could be a factor next season, or is that just implausible to think it's possible?
Okay, first you have to remember Tommy John surgery as we know it isn't the only elbow reconstruction anymore. Now we're seeing internal brace. Now we're seeing augmented procedures. There's a hybrid procedure that is happening sometimes. We still don't know exactly what Neil Elatrash did to Shohei Ohtani's elbow, but it was different. So the thing to remember here is that Tommy John surgery normally takes between 12 and 14 months to return from. So, yeah.
And by the way, we do know that Bradish got the internal brace.
Yeah, so he should be back earlier. We've seen internal brace guys. These are lower level guys where it's like, hey, it's my senior year and I want to come back. They've pushed it really hard. And they've been back in months, not years. There was a story I did on Under the Knife. I followed a high school basketball player who had an ACL in August. She was back on the court in January playing at full level. So we can see some really fast times. We haven't seen baseball teams push this. So I'm curious to see which team is going to be a little more aggressive, knowing that these internal braces really do work, and they really do work well. So, yes, I see no reason why he shouldn't be back about this time next year, or at least, by this time next year, we'll know exactly when he'll be back.
Okay, that's you giving me something that's encouraging, Will. So I would say that's a win for our conversation today. I like that. The other news from yesterday: Danny Coulomb, bone chips removed from his elbow. They're saying they don't think he's out for the year. They think he should be back in September. This is not. I don't think we know nearly as much, the layperson, about a situation like this. Does that sound right to you?
No, It sounds really, really negative, and I'm trying to figure out the reason for this. Yeah, bone chips are exactly what it sounds like, and the surgery is super simple. If you ever played Operation as a kid, that's basically it, with a little more advanced tools. The doctor reaches in, he pulls out the pieces, he rinses it out to make sure he didn't miss any. They're not big. The worry is that something got embedded. And that often happens, that a little piece of bone got in one of the ligaments or tendons down there, and they basically have to cut it out. And if so, you've basically sprained or strained that ligament, but it's controlled. We know how these kind of things work. That's my guess on what happened. I haven't been able to confirm that yet. But we've seen guys, Yohan Santana, and this is back in early 2000s.
Okay.
He had it and was back in 18 days. They just pulled one chip. So it's not identical. And again, we're just more conservative with pitchers these days, and I don't know why. I just don't understand it. So I don't see why they're saying, out for the season. No, absolutely not. Out till September. I really don't understand that timeline. It's 6 to 8 weeks. It seems more reasonable to me, absent something else having to be repaired in there.
Okay, all right. So now look at this. We're 2 for 2 with encouraging news. Of course, you're saying that knowing that you didn't actually see what happened. But I again,
it's the Grim Reaper with a smile.
Yeah, exactly. Like wearing a fun tie-dye T-shirt. The Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
I like that. Will Carroll, Under the Knife, is with us here on GCR. Will, one thing that came up last week, and I was there Friday night at Bradish's last start, took my kids. It was a great night against the Phillies. And something that a couple of people pointed out is Kyle Bradish threw two of his, he really roared back after getting in some trouble early and actually threw two of his fastest pitches that he had ever recorded before he had to leave the game after the fifth inning. Is there potentially a correlation between someone trying to push it, dealing with, what we already knew he was dealing with the sprain in the elbow earlier? Is there perhaps a correlation between that and ultimately the need for the surgery?
Yes, but not in the way you'd think. People think, he just went too much and it snapped.
Yeah.
It's not the way it happens. We know he'd had the issue before, so the ligament itself was scarring. That's how any ligament heals. It was when you hear somebody coming back from a minor sprain, it is really minor. I'm talking 10% of the thickness. It's something we can't even see with a good MRI. There's just not that visualization into exactly how it is. Even the best techniques, the best way to do it is go in there and look. which is what they did, of course. Really, it's the body senses that you need to amp it up. If you just go out there and throw, all of us, if you play catch with your kids, just a normal throw, you have more capacity in there. And most pitchers are throwing at or near 100% when they're in a game. Every single pitch. If you go back, Christy Mathewson back in, I want to say 1907, wrote a book called Pitching in a Pinch. And he was like, never throw hard until you need to. You can't do that anymore. I mean, if you go back to the 70s when we had guys like Mark Bellinger, who could, barely hit it out of the infield, but was a great glove man. Yeah, those guys don't exist.
Yeah, how dare you sully the name of Orioles legend Mark Belanger, by the way?
Phenomenal player.
That man hit 200 like your grandpa dreamed of hitting 200 like Mark Belanger did.
Exactly. But here's the thing. If you take a Hall of Fame player, I think all of us would acknowledge Ozzie Smith, one of the inner circle Hall of Famers, one of the best fielders of all time. Yeah. Take a look at his first couple seasons with the Padres and tell me if you would keep that guy in the majors. I don't think he would. No power, great glove, but no power, was hitting about the same level as Belanger. Those kind of guys could last in that day and age. You can't now. And you can't throw 84 miles an hour. If you do, you're not going to be out there very long. These guys are sprinting what used to be a marathon. That's why we're seeing more injuries. That's why we're seeing guys not complete games. We're asking people to do two things at absolutely diametric ends.
Well, to the point, and I do think so the Ravens dealt with a rash of injuries the last couple seasons. There were real questions about like their strength room and some of the players. It said, I don't trust this organization. Like there was a real problem there. But what you're saying is just because you see one baseball team deal with multiple elbow-related issues, that's not necessarily about like something about what they're doing with their pitchers. This is just the nature of pitching at this level in 2024.
Yeah, Means is a little bit different. Just because his was quirky, you just don't see a failure of the surgery. It almost never happens, and so when it does, there's usually a reason behind it. I don't know what it is. I'm sure the Orioles have an idea. I'm sure Means has an idea, his people. But if you look around, are the Orioles having different problems than every other team? No. We're seeing tons of arm injuries. If you look at every other team, look at the Marlins, for God's sakes. They're not a good team. Everybody's hurt there. If you take a look at the Phillies, they're dealing with it. Their top prospect coming back from Tommy John surgery won't be back until the end of the year. So you look around the league, even the Cy Young winner, Garrett Cole, was out with a really quirky elbow issue, not a ligament issue, but came back last night and looked okay. Right. We'll see whether he does. Walker Buehler, one of the best pitchers in the league for the Dodgers, they're having to send him down because he's just bad right now, coming back from Tommy John surgery. So this isn't an unusual problem. I mean, Brian and Mark and Pat, they do a really good job. I think if you saw a rash of things that were unusual, like hamstring injuries, which you see around the league a little bit, and I think that's the real problem with the pitch clock, is that guys are wearing down, both pitchers and hitters, so we're seeing more muscular injuries. I don't think we're seeing anything different with the Orioles. It just sucks that it's the good players.
I know it does. It absolutely sucks. What do we – so, again, just because we get nervous about any time we hear an elbow, Jackson Holliday went on the IL in the minors with elbow inflammation. He's not a pitcher, right? Like, what should we know? Because the Orioles didn't seem like they were overly concerned about it. Like, how does that happen for someone who is an infielder? And what would the actual concern be? Like, what would a timeline potentially be for a position player dealing with an elbow inflammation issue?
Well, we've seen this. The Yankees, one of their best prospects, Jason Dominguez, had Tommy John surgery with internal brace, and he's back playing now in the minor leagues and should be up any second now. So we do see this. We've seen it going all the way back to the 2000s. Catchers often have it, but this doesn't look like it's that situation. I'm told he made an awkward throw. I couldn't find any video of it. I couldn't find anybody to tell me how awkward it was. But a secondary source told me he made an awkward throw and his elbow swelled up. That'll happen. If you take a look at some of these throws these guys make, it's incredible. I mean, if you watch the College World Series yesterday, there was one of the best plays I've ever seen. Of course, Baltimore fans have all seen those Brooks Robinson throws.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a good arm, but it's not a plus arm. So I honestly think his future is at second base. So I don't think this is a huge negative. I think it gives him the ability to reset. I think he can focus on things. He hasn't had a good season. I think the pressure, last name or not, it is a lot of pressure to be the number one prospect in baseball, and a lot of them don't succeed. I think Holiday will, and I don't think this is going to be a big setback.
I guess should we immediately assume that, like, to your point, elbow inflammation, that doesn't scream to you like, oh, he's going to need Tommy John surgery?
No, because you know that. You know that almost immediately. I mean, the athletic trainers, and there are good athletic trainers at the AAA level as well. This doesn't even take a good athletic trainer. There are tests you can do right there. They're watching him like a hawk. And the fact is, he's not the only really good prospect down there. So they're watching them closely. They've got good doctors. It's not like Norfolk is a backwater somewhere. So you can do a quick ultrasound and check the ligament right there. They'll know exactly what it is. This is probably muscular. We've seen all sorts of things. I mean, everybody was worried about Garrett Cole, and it turns out it was basically his funny bone got trapped. They did a quick procedure, and now he's back. So it can be a lot of things. You don't automatically have to think, oh, God, he's gone for a year. For a position player, he'd be gone for 6 months. He'd be ready for spring training. But, no, it doesn't look like there's any indication of that. Just sounds like he made an awkward throw and maybe pulled a muscle, hit something. Things swell. That's what happens.
Yeah. All right, well, Carroll, I'm making you Mike Elias in the moment, right? As you pointed out, we all think the Orioles need to be in the market for a starter. Not on top of the Danny Coulomb injury, Craig Kimbrell blew another save last night, and it's really hard to trust Craig Kimbrell as being the closer that you're going to win the World Series with, and the workload. And we all saw what happened in Philadelphia last year, so we all think they need help in the bullpen. A lot of noise about them needing a right-handed bat than be in the market for a right-handed bat. Like, how far that's a lot that we're talking about acquiring to try to go win a World Series. How far are you willing to go to try to address these things? What's the priority for you? You're Mike Elias right now. What are you looking to do over the course of the next 5 weeks?
I'll probably get a call from Mike telling me, don't be him.
Yeah.
And I certainly wouldn't want his job. I think the thing they're going to have to do, and I know they've done this. I know that's a really good front office. They're really smart, and they've done this well. And not only that, they've done it twice. You have to take a look at this thing and say, they did this in Houston, they did this here, they could do it somewhere else if they wanted to. They've got a plan. It just sucks for those 3 years when your team is terrible and getting good draft picks. I would take a look really hard at what I think the team is going to be in 2026. You've got so much young talent. You've got some guys like Corbin Burns. Are you able to sign him long-term with that Carlisle money? Or is he going to test free agency? If so, what is your team going to look like in 2026? Not 2025, not 2024, but how does everything fit? And at that point, you do have some extra guys. Who's going, that shortstop that's coming up from AA, he's not going to move Henderson and Holiday. It's not going to happen. So can you turn him into a bullpen arm? Could you go out and get a Garrett Crochet who's being wasted with the White Sox? Risky, but good. And he's coming back off Tommy John surgery, so he ought to have a good couple of years at least. So, yeah, I'd take a really hard look at my team. I'd be looking at guys who are available. It's going to be a very weird market. There's not a lot available out there because the league is so, the NFL would call it parity. I will call it mediocrity. You could throw a blanket over half the league at 500. A team under 500 is in wild card position. So I would say that they need to get better. You always need to get better. I would focus on finding that real solid number 3 starter.
Is Eric Fetty that guy?
I don't think so. Okay. I mean, my test for these is always walk up to a fan at a game, random fan at a game, and say a name. And does he react? I mean, how many guys who are not like us know that who the heck Eric Fetty is?
No, I get it.
So, even Garrett Crochet is not well known. So I think you have to go out there and get a Corbin Burns, especially when you take a look at what Corbin Burns cost. Can you find another one of those? If you give up the exact same thing for a Garrett Crochet or somebody from the San Diego system, they're not going anywhere. So, yeah, there's a lot of options.
We'll remind everybody about Under the Knife, where they can check it out, where they can find you, the whole thing.
Undertheknife.substack.com. I think everybody has a Substack these days, it seems like. And it's fun to be directly talking to people who are interested in injuries in the context. So you can subscribe there for $5. You get a free newsletter where I give you 1 or 2 free players that we'll talk about on the league. But if you want it all, $5 a month. You can't even buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks anymore. Inflation.
That's a fact. Yes, you cannot do that for $5. And as always, at Injury Expert on Twitter is where you follow him. We'll always appreciate you, brother. It's great to chat with you, man. Hopefully it'll be even more pleasant the next time we do this. Thanks for spending the time with me.
Thanks a lot, Glenn.
Thanks, buddy. Will Carroll with us here on GCR, and it's not going to waver me on Fetty. Again, you got to start to tell me who the other options are and what the price is. Like, I've just kind of convinced myself that Fetty is the right price for a good option. That could go one way. We could find out that somebody else likes Fetty so much that the price is out of control. But
I don't know if it's because, obviously, I sit here listening to you every day, but I also have, pretty
Talk
much
yourself
made
into Fetty.
made my mind up that Fetty would definitely be maybe not the only.
No,
not the only.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
To the point, I got to start seeing like who the other guys are. A couple, Michael King came up earlier. I think it was Eric who brought him up. I'm like,
I just keep looking at the Rockies too, because that's a team that's ready to sell today. So I keep looking at the Rockies, and I think Cal Quantrill would be very helpful for this team. And then I look at Jalen Beeks as well, who's having a really good season. I know I texted you that earlier this week. So the Rockies stick out to me as a team that is ready. And if you look at, like, we keep comparing kind of this season, I think, to like what the Rangers did, where the Rangers were just like, let's get in, and then we'll figure it out, and they got hot and they win the World Series. Like, they traded for Aroldis Chapman. You say what you want about that deal, but they traded for Aroldis Chapman around this time, about this week, this time last season. So I think I would like, I want to see something done.
I think specifically related to the bullpen, and I know that Eric brought that up earlier, I think you're more likely to be able to acquire bullpen help right now because the price, when I just say help, I'm not talking about
not Ryan Helsley.
Yeah, not Jordan Romano probably. Like, I'm not talking, obviously not Mason Miller. I think there is someone that you can pry away that can be helpful for you right now. And frankly, that's where Aroldis Chapman was. And you can question about how helpful he really was for the Rangers a year ago. I feel like he's been good again this season in Pittsburgh, which is really bizarre.
Yeah, he wasn't too helpful.
He really wasn't. But like this year, I haven't paid attention closely, but it seems like he's.
And it's still that thing that the players always talk about. As soon as you get somebody new in there, it's like, oh, we're going.
There's something to be said for that. And right now, again, just from a sheer arms perspective, like, they need more arms. Like, they need more helpful pieces. So to say, can they add? They're at this point probably going to need multiple relievers. Really. Like, they're going to need, we keep coming back to the closer thing, they're going to need a closer. I know A.J. Pierzynski was making the argument that, like, maybe it's an additional closer. It's not a specific closer.
Presley be very
I'm interested, but they need a closer. The bullpen is where I'm far less concerned about whether or not these are rental pieces, right? Like, when I talk about acquiring a starter, I don't want that to be a rental. The bullpen, this right-handed bat that you're talking about, if those guys are rentals that you're getting for a song, fine. I am not nearly as concerned about control when it comes to those types of pieces. I'm specifically concerned about control when it comes to acquiring a starter. I'm opposed to rental starter. Quantrill, to your point, has another year of arbitration after this year. Again, that makes you have to pay a little bit more, but for a starter, willing to do that. For a bullpen arm, price down, give me whatever you got, and then you can solve your bullpen in the offseason. Like, you can solve the bullpen again. And that's the one thing I had somebody say to me yesterday, the biggest problem about the Bradish news, I think it was our buddy Randy Morgan who said, as I made a joke on Twitter yesterday when it came down, like, maybe Burns starts every other day, and people enjoyed that.
Well done.
It was a dumb one. That was just a dumb first thought that came to my mind. I didn't feel good about that one. It's weird. Twitter's such a weird place, bro. Like last night, we got so much traction over my stupid tweet about how, Gunnar doesn't care about anything other than playing baseball. And, it couldn't have gotten more retweets and likes. And it's not like some particularly thoughtful tweet. It's just genuinely my reaction in that moment watching the baseball game. And that one got a ton of traction on it. Randy said, hey, as bad as it is for this year, it actually is a bigger problem for next year. And I understand his point, which is that, on top of everything else, next year you also don't have Corbin Burns. All of a sudden you're looking at a rotation next year of, at the moment, Grayson, Cole Irvin.
Right, he's back. Right?
Yeah, I believe he had.
That sounds right. That sounds like he should be.
I'm pretty. Boy, now I got to go back and double check. You son of a bitch.
Well, it's like.
Yeah, he's got 2 more years of
cool.
arbitration after this year.
Okay,
That was part of what made Cole Irvin so compelling, was he had so much control when they traded for him, despite the fact that he's in his 30s.
So
it's tough for him.
Yeah.
And, you're bummed for him, but he'll make money. It's not like he's not going to make money.
He's got a YouTube channel. Yeah, he does stuff.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and he's a good guy. Love Dean Kramer or Cole Irvin. Love Dean Kramer too. And Dean Kramer isn't
should be back.
right now. Your 1, 2, 3 next year is Grayson, Irvin, Kramer. That's your 1, 2, 3 for a team that presumably still has World Series aspirations. So I understand his point. My retort was, I know what you're saying, with the caveat that you are allowed to spend money on pitching. The Orioles haven't done that. That's been foreign to the Baltimore Orioles organization.
Have they ever done that?
I think Ubaldo was the most. I mean, it was. Ubaldo was the most. I mean, for a little while there, they were actually signing the second. The Cobbs, the Cashners. For a minute, they were signing the back end of free agency pitchers, which in comparison, we were like, yes. Better than nothing. Just didn't work out the way that we wanted it to. Even Gallardo was a little bit of money, but it was a back end of free agency pitcher. That's
Norris back. He'd be.
That was a trade. That was not a signing. That was a trade. That was
probably available right now, though, right?
He probably is. I don't know what Bud's doing with his life. Might be coaching somewhere. Who knows? Look, man, the part of this conversation that's going under the microscope next is the money side of this. We have been it's been a very romantic first couple of months for David Rubenstein. He waves, he throws out hats, splashes people with water. That's it. But just not being named Angelos only carries you for so long. And that's the sign. When this goes under the microscope, when all of a sudden you look at next year's rotation, you say, boy, you're in trouble. That's where this conversation becomes significantly louder. What are you going to do? And it's easy for us to say, hey, we're fearful of spending big money on starting pitching. And Randy followed up with me about that. Right now, if I'm going to spend money, I'd rather spend it on position players than on pitchers. Well, but you haven't drafted pitchers. It's the antithesis of what Mike Elias has done. I hear the thought, right? There's so much risk in these guys, from an injury perspective, that why do you want to spend big money on them? Well, but you don't have them in your pipeline either. That's just not there. And you want to keep trying to go the international route and trying to find them, but right now, the fruit isn't there to count on to bridge that gap. To try to win a World Series in the next 3 years, you're going to need to spend money on pitching. Now, it might not be, if Corbin Burns is specifically looking for, 5 years and $300 million.
He might deserve $600.
Maybe. And to say, hey, that $60 million for a pitcher is not something I think I can do when there's a risk that guy's going to miss the better part of 2 seasons should he have one injury. I hear you. But you're going to have to spend money on pitching. There's kind of no way around it. Money will have to be spent on pitching. They don't have a choice because they can't Cade Povich and Chase McDermott and Trace Bright their way into thinking that that's a World Series contending rotation. And that's with me hoping. I do think that there's promise with Cade Povich, but promise to be a top of the rotation guy? I don't see that. Hope I'm wrong. I hope he's John Means in the coming years.
Max Fried, that's where everyone compares.
100%, right? That'd be great. But am I counting on it? No, I'm not counting on it. They're going to have to spend money on pitching. There's going to be no way around that. And part of that might be taking on money at the deadline. Like, that's the money part of this, where the romantic feelings of a new owner is going to have to run into. We all can say, hey, we don't just want them to wildly spend money. Agreed. But they're going to have to spend some money. And the injury problems, the margin for error, exacerbates that. When we come back in, we'll get a tidbit and we'll get Tubular to wind things. Oh, we got to do fighting words. That's right. I forgot about fighting words.
Do it now? Or
all right, we'll do it now. Go ahead. Hit the button.
It's Fighting Words with Griffin Bass.
Don't act so annoyed.
Well, I'm not annoyed. I really am not. Because we talked about Gervonta earlier in the week, that really is the thing. We spent some time with it on Monday because it's a bigger local story. So because of that, there's just not really significant things otherwise to talk about. But go ahead.
It was, I guess because we addressed it quickly on Friday. But yeah, I guess the biggest news is the shakeup of UFC 303. Conor McGregor.
Yeah, we did talk about it on Friday. Yeah.
That was because I think that news came out like right after we stopped. But yeah, there's been a ton of shakeups. Yeah, I guess we'll start with Tank. Obviously, Tank did knock out Frank Martin, and it kind of went pretty much more or less the way that I said it would. I said it would be a round 10 knockout. He knocked him out in round 8.
That's true. It's true. But did you get your round 7 to 12?
Round 7 to 12.
Very nice.
Yes. So hopefully you listened. And now we're just we're looking at what could be next for Tank now. I think. It'd be very cool if he's able to fight again before the end of the year. He looked more. I feel like he's looked more focused, and he looked happy like after the fight. Like when whoever the ring announcer was throwing out some names in there, like he looked excited thinking about a potential fight against, whether it would be Shakur Stevenson or Lomachenko, whoever that ends up being. I guess a Pitbull Cruz. That one I feel like wouldn't be quite as exciting, but that's a name that's a beatable name for him. So hopefully we get hopefully there's maybe what we should be hoping for is no news about Tank Davis in the immediate future.
Ryan Garcia showed up and was trying to push for. He had the rematch me bitch T-shirt on, and
that could be a good fight too.
It's also weird. Like I didn't know that there was this friendly thing with Tank and Ryan Garcia, that Ryan Garcia was Tank was very excited to see him ringside. That was a very weird. I didn't know that. Now. Like it or not, Ryan Garcia, and we said this because he won the fight against Haney. Ryan Garcia is a celebrity, and
that would be
probably
easy fight to sell.
Probably would be a money fight, and that's I hate the thought of that because it feels like Tank should be past Ryan Garcia and should be on to bigger things, but then we always remember that this is the Floyd game plan, right? Just win a ton of fights. Don't fight any of those fights until you're nearer the end of your career. Or fight name guys that are the end of their career. Right. That's what he did with De La Hoya, obviously, was there was no risk of him losing to De La Hoya. De La Hoya was 40 at that point. Wait for the money fights until closer to the end of your career. Continue to make bank on you being the star, and whoever you fight, you're the reason why people are paying money to watch the fight.
Yeah. So
I hope that's not the case.
Yeah. In that case, then maybe Lomachenko would be more likely. We'd see that more sooner than later. Then hopefully, just because he's older, but he still obviously looks very good. Yeah. So hopefully, there's no news about Tank outside of what his training,
the away from the ring stuff. Hopefully, all the stuff he said about being more mature and that Calvin Ford said with us on Monday about him being a different person. I pray all of that is true and that the priority is just stacking fights and doing stuff that we all want to see.
And then in the UFC, so yes, Conor and Michael Chandler officially out as the main event. That was supposed to be next weekend, the 29th. And so they had to scramble, and they replaced it.
Well, you said when we talked about it on Friday, you said you like the fight.
Yeah, it's a great. It's still a great card in my opinion. It's just that it's just disappointing that we had to throw this together, and I say we that they that
I believe it or not, they didn't call me.
Yeah, that they had to throw it together in a span of 2 weeks, and so now we have these guys on short notice fighting each other, and I'm not sure how much it would play a role that the fact that they have fought already. It's Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prochazka. Pereira knocked him out, and I forget what round it was, but they fought last year. And this is the fight to make for the light heavyweight light heavyweight belt at 205. So it should be very exciting. It's hard to see Alex Pereira
for UFC fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And then I guess the other story, just the fact that people were paying tons and tons of money to go see McGregor, and now they can't.
The dude bros. This was a tough month. I remember I told the story about my Yankee Stadium thing, so we had this conversation.
That's right. And then this weekend also had a quick shakeup. They're in Saudi Arabia this weekend in Riyadh, and it's an ABC card, so you can watch this one. The main event starts at 3. The prelims are on ESPN as well at noon. It's Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliskerov. It was supposed to be Khamzat Chimaev. This was in all that news when they made the fight switch official. All that news, they announced that Chimaev also came down with illness, and so that's quite disappointing because that was going to be a very, very compelling fight between Khamzat and Robert Whittaker, 2 big names that everyone is more familiar with. But instead, Ikram Aliskerov was supposed to fight last week. He was going to fight a tomato can last week, so now he gets a massive, massive step up against Whittaker. The other thing, Brian Powell tagged me in it. Bo Nickel apparently was contacted about stepping in for this fight, and it was just very weird, like, circumstances. The way that, like, he kind of
he said that, like,
he was on like the Spinning Back Fist podcast, I think,
or his own podcast. It was somewhere where he didn't have phone service or something like that.
He was camping in Montana. He didn't have service, and it's just the fact that it's 2024. It seems a little different. Obviously, the UFC did want to move very, very quickly, so they weren't going to sit around waiting for Bo Nickel or somebody on Bo Nickel's team to get back to them. So it's very possible that he just literally was out in Montana, and there was just literally didn't get the call until it was too late. And the UFC had to move forward because this was like 10 days is when they were having this fight scheduled. So I'm not sure if he was gonna take it or whatever. But it would have been a massive step up for him as well. And now we get a very close fight odds wise between Robert Whittaker and Ikram Aliskerov. And I'm leaning towards Robert Whittaker in this one. This is a middleweight at 185. Aliskerov is a guy who he's come out of nowhere. Like, he's had 2 UFC fights, but he's looked very good in both of them. He was going to squash the guy he was going to fight last week, so this is a much more entertaining fight against Whittaker. But I still think Whittaker does have the edge in this. He's slightly older, but he has only lost 2 champions. Like, in the past, let me pull up his record here. But in the past 8 years, he's only lost to Izzy. Okay.
You're losing everybody.
And Dricus du Plessis. So I like Whittaker in this one. Sergey Pavlovich and Alexander Volkov are fighting in the co-main, the heavyweights, which is I'm very excited for this one as well. It's weird because he's a Russian fighter, and his nickname is Drago as well, Alexander Volkov. But no one doesn't like Alexander Volkov.
Okay.
He's he's a very interesting heavyweight too, because since he got knocked out by Derek Lewis in the final 10 seconds of that one fight several years back now, he's still improved and gotten better. He is a substantial underdog against Pavlovich though, who got knocked out in 1 minute to Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight belt last November. So seems like this should help Pavlovich get back on track though. I'm gonna be rooting for Volkov though. Tough fight to pick. A lot of tough fights to pick on this one. I just think it's a very good card, and I know you want to make money, so I will give you the parlay that I have for this weekend. I like they're out in Saudi Arabia, so there's a lot of guys with tough names to pronounce, but we're gonna go Muin Ghafarov from Tajikistan. He's minus 170.
Yes.
Parlay him with Magomed Ghaziasulov. I did pretty good on that.
Wow.
I'm pretty proud.
Wow.
Minus 340. And then Shara Magomedov, Shara Bullet was what they call him.
You're gonna need to tweet that one out.
670.
I don't think anybody's gonna be able to.
Shara Magomedov, Muin Ghafarov, and Magomed Ghaziasulov. Plus 136.
That is a lot.
If you put those three together,
that is a lot.
I feel Kelvin Gastelum's fighting this weekend too.
I'm familiar with him.
He's a pretty substantial favorite. I don't love his chances against Daniel Rodriguez. Which would be, I'm going to root for Gastelum too, but he's minus 245. There's definitely some plus 200 right now for Daniel Rodriguez. I like that for him, but I think it's there's a lot of guys. Oh, Nicholas Dalby as well. Stay away from Renat Fakhretdinov. He's like minus 380.
This is on me. I've let you go way too far with this. I've allowed you to go way too far with your nerdy.
Okay.
Like we got to tighten. Like topics,
also,
not just.
Okay.
I like every fight on the it's too much.
Also PFL tomorrow. They're in Salt Lake City, and then there is a Bellator card on HBO Max in Dublin on Saturday.
I thought Bellator was gone.
Well, they're still they still have their own thing.
What?
They still
I
have,
thought they were
fights.
bought by
they're still like putting on like their own promotion. But now it's on. Or now PFL has control of them. But
I don't even want. You know what?
It's the same time as the UFC card, though. The Bellator card.
That doesn't seem.
No, it doesn't seem
ideal.
It doesn't seem ideal at all. But yeah, there's just more fights. A lot of MMA going on this weekend.
Right.
So it's a good weekend. And then next week we'll be getting ready for Yuri versus Alex Pereira.
Very good. All right,
So
that'll
I'm
do
excited
it. Now tidbit tubular. My head's spinning from all of this. Tidbit tubular. When we come back in, it's Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hagerstown, Maryland, a snapshot of American history that dates back centuries. Today, the roots of the city expand with another historical moment, the grand opening of Meredith Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Experience the energy, culture, and adventure. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland. Visit Hagerstown.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The Ed Block Courage Award Foundation has been working in partnership with the NFL for 46 years to support abused, neglected, and at-risk youth across the country, partnering each team with a children's facility or program that supports the well-being of those in need. Annually, one player from each team is selected by their peers to receive the Courage Award for their inspiration on and off the field. Learn more about how the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation makes a difference, and be sure to check out their latest podcast and web series episodes at edblock.org.
coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, winding down for a Thursday edition of GCR and getting ready for Orioles.
Have you
Yankees
ever
this
thought of taking
afternoon.
a
Let's go ahead and get a tidbit.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
What you got for us?
Another Willie Mays one that I saw yesterday. There have been 2 players to have a season in which they hit 50 home runs in 10 triples. Willie Mays did this in 1955. He had 51 homers and had 13 triples with the Giants. One other player has done this.
Well, it's not Barry Bonds because he only hit 50 home runs once, which is one of the wildest statistics.
You didn't think he had 10 triples that year?
I know he didn't.
Okay. You'd be right.
Gotta think about everybody else that's hit 50 home runs. Griffey.
Not Griffey.
There is a place.
Oh, Brady.
No, not Brady.
That actually would have made sense.
Well, it's not the answer, so it doesn't make sense.
But it would have. A-hole. Son of a bitch. How about John Carlo, don't call me Mike Stanton?
No, not John Carlo, Mike Stanton.
Man, A-Rod?
Not A-Rod.
Sammy Sosa?
Not Sammy Sosa.
Yuck. You just try to think of the type of player that, because it's not Mark McGwire, it's not Jim Thome, it's not.
This guy hit 59 home runs and had 16 triples.
59 home runs. There's only a handful of guys. Roger Maris didn't have 59. It's specifically 59 home runs. My God. Hack Wilson.
Not Hack Wilson.
It's obviously somebody older.
It is.
Jimmy Fox.
Not Jimmy Fox.
Hank Greenberg.
Not Hank Greenberg.
I mean, we're getting to the point where I'm going to have to say the thing out loud. Is it Babe Ruth?
It is Babe Ruth.
See, that's impossible. By the way, this is really damning to the argument of Babe Ruth being the greatest player of all time. It really is. We talked about this on the radio show yesterday because, it's easy for people to say, hey, it's either Willie Mays or Barry Bonds. But then you have to consider the fact that Babe Ruth pitched. And you look at Babe Ruth's numbers, Babe Ruth, the all-time leader in WAR. But there is no world in which Babe Ruth should have ever had, did you say 16
triples.
16 triples in a season. That really does speak to the perhaps incompetence of the players that he was playing against. That, you have to admit, Babe Ruth should never have had a triple.
I mean, the guy ran.
Yeah, he sure did. He sure ran.
I mean, Ohtani runs. Ohtani's a big,
Ohtani is not.
Figure.
Babe Ruth wasn't just tall. Babe Ruth was not a runner. So much so that at one point in his career.
1921 he was.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Do you want another one? Yeah.
It depends. How long is it gonna take?
Gunnar leads the league in leadoff home runs this year. He did, and that was. I like how he took it personal after Schwarber. Obviously, Schwarber tied him for the lead on Friday night, and then Gunnar came right back and retook the lead with 8. So Schwarber and Gunnar are top 2. Can you round out the other guys that have 3 leadoff home runs this season?
This season?
Yeah. So Gunnar and Schwarber are 1 and 2. There are 5 other guys that have had 3 or more leadoff home runs.
Acuna before he got hurt.
Not Acuna. It was just a very tough year for Acuna. I don't think he didn't have many home runs.
The problem is knowing who's leading off for certain, and I just don't know. I genuinely don't know who's leading off. Like, you could tell me that Jose Ramirez was leading off for Cleveland, and I would say, okay, sure. I don't know.
He's not leading off every game, but he leads off a handful of games for the Diamondbacks.
Leads off Marte?
Yes, Ketel Marte. 4 leadoff home runs this season.
Okay.
2 more guys with 4 home runs. They both play in West teams.
Both play for West teams. Who's leading off for the Padres? Is it a Padre?
Not a Padre.
Is it a Giant?
Not a Giant.
Is it a Dodger?
Yes, there is a Dodger.
Is Mookie leading off for them?
Mookie is, in fact, leading off. He has 4 leadoff home runs this year.
Is it an Athletic?
Hopefully back soon. No Athletics.
Is it a Mariner?
There is a Mariner with 3.
Who's let off? Has Julio led off for the Mariners?
Not Julio. I think he bats second typically.
I don't know.
Maybe lower this year since he hasn't.
Who's led off for the Mariners? I don't think it's Tyler Locklear.
No, it's not Tyler Locklear. Who knows? Maybe later this season he might find himself on this list.
Who has led off for the Mariners? Crawford?
Yes, J.P. Crawford. Okay. Jip Crawford.
Yeah, old Jip. And there's an Astro.
Not an Astro.
Ranger. Tavares?
Not Tavares.
Is it who's led off? Is Semien led off?
Marcus Semien for leadoff home runs, and then we have a Pittsburgh Pirate. This one's very surprising. 3 leadoff home runs.
Surprising that they were leading off, or surprising they've hit home runs?
Both.
McCutchen?
Andrew McCutchen, 3 leadoff home runs this season for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
That's been fun for them. That's been a fun thing. All right, yeah, I clearly just don't know until that team comes. It's also different because it's not like some teams have the same guy leading off. Some teams just say, hey, today you're leading off. I don't know anymore. Until they come to town, I don't know who's leading off for.
Jordan Westbrook has 1 on here.
There you go. There you go. All right, let's get tubular.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
All right, here we go. It's coming up tonight or this afternoon, as obviously that's when the Orioles take on the Yankees just after 4 o'clock on Masson, Cole Irvin, and Luis Gil. The pitching matchup for that one as the Orioles try to improbably, somehow, some way, win a series despite not being their top pitchers on the mound this week. So Orioles-Yankees just after 4 o'clock. Fox, the Euro, Spain and Italy at 3. Real bummer that those things are going on at the same time. Also, tonight on Fox, the Rickwood Field game, Giants-Cardinals, 7:15, and presumably a lot of Willie Mays tribute surrounding that broadcast tonight on Fox. So I guess I will look at that tonight, probably. That'll be what gets my attention. Fox Sports 1 right now, Denmark and England and the Euro, and then the Copa tonight, Argentina and Canada at 8 o'clock. More U.S.
England already up on Denmark.
Oh, okay.
Harry Kane.
Oh, Harry Kane, huh? More U.S. swimming trials coming up tonight on NBC at 8 o'clock, USA at 7. Other baseball, Masson 2, D-backs Nationals, 1 o'clock. It's also the free game of the day on MLB TV and the rest of the country. ESPN Plus, Rays Twins at 1:10. MLB Network has Brewers Padres later on tonight. They join that in progress at 11 o'clock. Amazon Prime Video, LA Sparks, New York Liberty at 7 o'clock. Bummer about Cameron Brink. That stinks. Golf Channel for round 1 of the PGA Travelers Championship at 3 o'clock, and then round 1 of the Women's PGA Championship at 6 o'clock. Access TV for Impact tonight at 8 o'clock. Non-sports?
A few things. New episode of The Boys on Prime Video. Also on Prime Video, there is a Roger Federer documentary.
That's right.
12 final days. So it's like follows the 12 days leading up to Federer's retirement at the
Laver Cup.
Laver Cup. What?
Rod Laver.
Laver Cup. Yeah, that's what I said.
Just go.
It's rated R too, so it looks like it's
what?
Yeah, it's like rated R. So I guess like there's gonna be
language?
I don't know, but I remember seeing that at the very end of the trailer. I was like, that's okay, cool.
Got a lot of questions.
Netflix has
they show some intimate scenes from like massage therapy. Very weird.
It's like a cheerleader's Hard Knocks. It looks like on Netflix. It's America's Sweethearts, Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Nope.
And it follows them from like tryouts to training camp to the season.
And that could be for anybody else.
America's Sweethearts.
There was another Dallas Cowboys like TV show at one point, like Making the Team or something like that. That cheerleader.
For a cheerleader.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, why not? Might as well do it. I bet somebody.
I'm sure.
Into it. Hulu has Perfect Wife. This is the mysterious disappearance of Sherry Papini. Is that how you say it? Yeah, Papini. This was it happened. I think 2016 is when this happened. It was like the real life Gone Girl, where this
right,
disappeared and came back with like she claimed she was kidnapped, and then apparently she was lying about all of it.
Yep.
So maybe a book club, or I don't know.
Might be.
Yeah.
Might be.
But that's on Hulu. Perfect Wife. And then otherwise, yeah, that's really it. Zac Efron will be on Kimmel. He's got a Netflix movie next Friday.
Okay.
But it looks very Hallmarky. I'll dive into it for you next week.
Not doing Iron Claw 2?
No, unfortunately, this doesn't look like it's Iron Claw 2. He's like dating Nicole Kidman. And
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
But he's Joey King's boss and whatever.
All right. Let's go. We'll wrap it up. Thanks today to Emma and Brooke DeBerdine. Thanks also to Will Carroll and to Eric Arditti. We'll get all that up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow, Stan is back. He'll be in studio with us. Also joining us in studio, our buddy Brandon Copeland, former Ravens linebacker, former Gilman linebacker. He's back in town. He's got his camp, and he's got a new book. We're going to talk about all that with Brandon Copeland. We'll just love that guy. Love that guy. Always enjoy catching up with him. We'll preview the Astros with Todd Callis and stuff and things. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Visit Hagerstown in Washington County. Cruise Maryland, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, Ed Block Courage Awards. HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, the MSAA, Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Thursday evening. Go Birds. Duke sucks.